This is Papa Smurf. You're listening to Our Lifestyle, the podcast, with ODB and the Mayor.
Yo, this is Rob Maggi, and you're listening to Our Lifestyle podcast.
Yo, as we get started, we want to thank our title sponsor, Scrapin' the Coast. You can visit scrapinthecoast.com for more information. Their next event, 22nd annual, is going to be the last weekend in June. They haven't yet announced it for 2024, but rest assured we will be out there. One of the biggest, baddest shows in the country. Get ready for more information coming soon on Scrapin' the Coast. Tap on the hashtag #ScrapinTheCoast for more information. We appreciate the continued support of Custom Car Show Productions. Yo, it's Our Lifestyle, the podcast, also known as OLP for short, coming at you with episode 338. Got to give a huge shout out, as you heard from at the top, Custom Car Show Productions. Can't wait for Scrapin' the Coast 2024. But first up, we got Biggity Mike the Mayor. I think I heard him gallivanting in on a horse. Dude, are you shooting your album cover tonight or no with the photographer?
On a horse.
Dude.
Oh, my God. Bro, I just got done down at the Circle K. I picked up some new scratchers. Dude, you'll never guess who I ran into.
Hank.
How did you know?
Dude, was Virginia Black there?
Well, Virginia Black is who is behind the counter. Bro, I figured out Hank's new little scam that he's got going.
Okay, let's hear this.
All right. So he's traveling state to state, okay? And he's stopping at all these different Circle Ks.
Okay.
And so what he's doing is he goes up to the little lotto section, and everybody goes and scratches off their scratchers at this little table there when they're filling out, after they fill out their lotto, the lotto cards.
Right.
And then they're throwing them away in the trash can right underneath that little table.
Oh, I see where this is going.
So what Hank's doing, taking those old scratchers that nobody won on, and he is spraying the scratch off shit right back over them, taking them back to Virginia Black. Virginia Black's giving him his money back, like he bought them. And he's like, man, I made a mistake, And then what he's doing is he's splitting the cash with Virginia Black.
Hey, he's flipping the game, dude.
Dude, tell you what, that Hank is not a stupid dude, man.
Smart.
He's definitely onto something there.
Dude, hopefully he'll be in Office Space too, where they talk about taking like a fraction of a penny from every client, and then he'll be rich.
Oh, dude, I tell you what, man. But on to some bigger and better things, man. What an awesome weekend we had at the Spark Show.
Oh, we did, and
dude,
I want to throw this out there real quick before we get to that, because I know I'm itching right now. I just want to throw this out there, Mike. On this episode, we're gonna have Joey come back, and Joey from Majestics is gonna talk about selling his '64 rag, also known as a convertible. And that is basically, I'm not going to give it away. Some of it you may see from the thumbnail of this episode, but there's a cool story behind how that went down. Also, Mike, on this episode, we're going to talk to Ruben Arteaga. We're going to talk about our favorite lowriders in movies, TV shows, music videos, and so much more. The episode overview is brought to you by Hammered Weekend Wear, HAMMERD, right, Mike? HammeredWeekendwear.com. They can get their new merch.
Yes, sir.
Dude, I love it. HAMMERD, weekendwear.com. Now, Mike, as we get sideways into the general updates, dude, I want to ask you about this, dude. How excited were you? It seems like forever ago, but it was just a couple of weekends ago. We fishtailed into Sevierville, for the most part, and we had a good time at the Spark Show.
Dude, had a great time. And, I was really glad we did what we did. We came in a little early, and we actually went and explored the city and the town. And, man, we had some good food. We went and seen some really cool places. the dome. I can't remember what was the name of the dome that we drove all the way up to at the top of the mountain.
Gilligan something. I mean, you know what I mean?
I don't think that's what it was called.
Yeah, was it? You took me on a effing 3-hour tour up there. I'm telling you, bro. It was something about a Gilligan Island. There was a hot chick, and something like that.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, we went up to the top of the mountain and there went through Gatlinburg and went through Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, went to the top of the mountain, checked that all out. By the time we got up there, it was kind of foggy. But I tell you what was it, like 90 degrees when we were down, in Pigeon Forge. We get all the way at the top of the mountain, and it got all the way 54 degrees, bro. It was cold as hell.
Yeah, and it felt like a 3-hour tour. And for those that aren't aware of it, it was technically Klingman's Dome, which is kind of a cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, Gilligan, Klingman,
3 hour.
Thing,
it was
right?
a 3-hour tour. Let's be honest. No, but seriously, I had never driven like up in that area. Like you were a very good kind of tour guide. You took the Silverado, pierced right through those mountains, dude. Right, kind of that spot between Sevierville and Gatlinburg, and then you fishtailed up some of those deals. And dude, when we got up there, it was a little late, but it kind of was cool. It had that spooky feel, and man, we saw waterfalls. I mean, man, it was definitely worth the drive.
Oh yeah, no, we had a great time, and I tell you what, and then that pre-party Friday night, I tell you what, those guys, Adam, Dizzy, they nailed it on that spot for that pre-party Friday night. That was cool the way we parked the cars, or I'm sorry, they parked the trucks, back in the back there where, it was at a distillery and where the beer was made. They parked them all, the mini trucks all in there, and just a cool vibe and definitely a cool place. Definitely look forward to getting back up there and doing that again. And shit, our booth, bro, we were freaking popping, man. We had mini trucks all over the place.
Yeah, we had 6 mini trucks there. We got to thank Adam and Dizzy for the space and kind of inviting us up. But to your point, the pre-party, that event, Mike, if you could ever get like I forget what the show was, it was called something like After Dark or something. If we ever had some sort of venue down here, you'd be able to really run wild with something like that, because that venue, as you said, was awesome. Got to thank Chad Luke. Chad had said, "Hey, come aboard my vessel." You know what I mean? Jump into the jump into the blue chariot, blue and gray, and we of course cruised over there. Shannon was even rolling. I know DJ Mays and Diggity Dom, they rolled with us even that previous night up to Klingman's Dome. So, like you said, Thursday, Friday, that really set the tone for us. And Friday really, I felt like, was a move-in day. Although there were vendors set up, we were able to do some of the things. We got set up, for the most part, and then we were ready to rock and roll, like you said, Saturday morning. But, dude, Thursday, Friday, if those 2 days set the tone for the weekend, dude, we knew we were in store for a good time.
Oh, absolutely, man. And I tell you what, our booth was popping. I mean, we had Kurt there with his Ford Ranger. We had Chad there with his his fucking Toyota. I mean, shit. We even was graced by the presence of fucking Tom all the way from Arizona, bro. I mean, come on.
Yep.
Yeah. And then of course we had Jessica and Barefoot in her Mazda, there in the booth. And then, I mean, come on, we can't forget, Jenna Lease and Scotty the Body. So dude, we were definitely looking good there in the booth, and definitely look forward to. I mean, I think we had the best spot in the house, and definitely look forward to doing that all over again next year.
Yeah, and like you said, tip of the cap to Don Dizzy Davis and Adam for allowing. I mean, they really rolled off the red carpet, and we can't thank them enough. The other piece I wanted to mention is the cool thing was, networking in the booth. Scott and I talked about, Smutfest 2024, and he kind of likes, club games. A lot of these shows around here seem to kind of be doing away with stuff. I'm of the mindset of, dude, bring the club games, bring the sledgehammer, smashing the cars, bring back the good old days. A lot of people are trying to get rid of the good old days. I'm trying to bring them back. And Scott liked my idea of doing like an arm wrestling. contest at Smurfest, and Jenna Lee's heard us. She goes, oh, she doesn't know if she wants to, she goes, hey, I'm kind of a professional. I don't know if I could come to an event like that. But certainly she said, hey, I can help project manage it. You know what I mean? So I said, hey, we might have some partners. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you're onto something there.
Could be.
But at the same time, we also got to, give a shout out to Dizzy and Adam for, and the rest of their family, for putting on a damn good show. And 10 years, man, 10 years. That was the 10th year of the Spark Show. And of course, this year it was presented by Ox Auto Spa. And definitely want to give a shout out to those guys for coming on board and helping our brothers put on another successful show. And I think they ended up with, if I'm not mistaken, 371 was their total count. And so, I mean, they definitely killed it, on the 10th year. And so we look forward to, like I said, we look forward to doing that all over again, man. There's all kinds of good videos and pictures all over the book face and the Insta. And so definitely check them out and see what see what was there and book y'all's make your plans and book it for next year. And second weekend of August is when the Spark Show always goes down. So make sure you guys are there and check it out, because man, there are a bunch of cool restaurants and just lots and plenty of things to do there in Pigeon Forge for the Spark Show.
No doubt. And Mike, there's two names we couldn't forget. If you think about the Spark Show family, again, 10th annual event, which they just knocked the socks off. But think about Corey Floyd and Chelsea Floyd. Corey out there doing some amazing stuff. He recently launched his new shirt, his new banners, some of his new merch with Corey Floyd Photography. You can look him up. He just kind of primarily goes under Corey Floyd on Instagram, that main one. But, even Chelsea out there, the family, like you said, helping bring people into this event, handling all the questions, dealing with the registration. It's really kind of all hands on deck, and it's really cool to see those familiar faces up there in Tennessee. Now, we could go through, and I'll be honest, I'm going to just mention a couple of these names. Adam was gracious enough. Mike had reminded him, hey, send us some information, and Mike covered some of it. But if you think about, the Mini Trucker Union pick, Tom Jenkins, Justin Wyatt, Scott, a.k.a. Scotty the Body. Some of these guys taking some awesome awards. I know Gooch was out there. He helped me with some stuff in terms of some kind of pinstriping / painting. I really appreciate that. But then getting back to some of the names, the Culpeppers were out there. They were doing the dang thing. If you think about that, Jenna Lease won, I think, an award there. It was maybe, a ladies' ride, which was awesome. But then think about Sean Ryder, and seeing him and the crew, good people, as you know. But best of show, tip of the cap, dude. We got to see Shane, his girl, or his daughter. She was able to bring the red C10 out of the trailer, right? I think it was, and you can maybe speak to that.
Yep.
But to see Shane, get all this recognition, we saw it at Lone Star Throwdown, dude. And again, we could go through each name, and we'd bore some of you folks out there maybe with that. But there's a few little kind of dabbling around of people, and like Mike said, definitely need to get out there next year. But how cool was that Shane Smith, and trust his daughter to help with that,
Bro. Our boy just spent $250,000 on this damn truck. But the best part about it is, and I can say this because I'd probably have to do the same thing. Well, chances are I know I'd have to do the same thing. He can't get his fat ass in the trailer to get into the truck to be able to get the truck out of the trailer once it's in there.
I didn't say that.
So he sends a skinny daughter in there to make it happen. But at the end of the day, I think it's pretty damn cool that the daughter comes to the shows with him, hangs out, and likes going to the shows, and they spend that time together. So it's pretty awesome, and yeah, it was cool to see her, 16 years old, and she drives the big freaking F-250, pulls the trailer around, drives the C10, the $250,000 C10, out of the trailer, drives it down there, parks it, lays it out. I'm like, bro, that's awesome. So definitely raising her right. That's for damn sure. And yeah, hats off to Scotty the Body and winning his best mini truck. And man, you talked about club games, and you didn't mention the fact that it's not club games at the Spark Show, but it's the Boone games.
Yeah.
Michelle, Dustin coming up with some of the best club games in the scene, and hats off. Always good to see the Boones. We say it time and time again, two of the best people in the scene, and always good, and they're a part of that Sparks family as well. So definitely, hats off to everybody, and for the whole team to put on a hell of a show. And hey, it was finally good to meet the Mini Truckin'. Mini Truckin' magazine is back. If you guys haven't heard, if you haven't seen, new logo,
New website,
new website. I mean, they are off and popping. And if we're not mistaken, I know a lot of people have been saying, and a lot of people have been asking, they are going to release their first issue. Was it May 24th of next year, Jay?
That's the word on the street. That's going to align with like the 10-year span. May 2014 to May 2024. That's kind of the feeling that we're hearing.
Yeah, and so but it was great seeing Logan. Meeting Logan, and definitely we are going to do anything and everything that we can to help Mini Truckin' Magazine. Getting the word out and so on and so forth. So. Definitely stay, keep on board with OLP because we're definitely down. We are definitely down with the Mini Truckin' Magazine.
Yeah, so. MTM. And
yes,
something I will tie into that. I don't want to go into detail now, but they did, to Mike's point, release the new logo. So Logan had some cards that he was giving out. So tip of the cap to Logan Wade. The logo actually pays homage in a sense, and I'll probably talk more about this in the future. It even goes back to the first issue, at least the way I see it. But here's something to dovetail into that is minitruckinmag.net. That's the official website. Logan has already been boots on the ground. So even though Mike and I say, hey, it's going to be back, we're hearing maybe print, maybe online. We know it's going to eventually be print, but you don't have to wait for that. Go to minitruckinmag.net and you can see more there, including the top 5 from the Spark Show. The last thing I wanted to mention is Doug Kolb. So Doug Kolb came by. He shot the first Mini Truckin' Magazine cover along with Larry. I think Doug had the lead maybe. Doug got the credit for it, but a lot of times there's 2 guys there. But he certainly said, yeah, Larry was there as well. And what was cool was Doug Kolb had chimed in on my YouTube posts in the past, and he lives up in Tennessee, so he kind of sought us out, which was super cool. We're going to have him on soon, so more to come on that, but it was cool to link him up. You and I ran over, we grabbed Logan, we said, hey, how cool is this? First Mini Truckin' Magazine photographer cover. Oh, by the way, Logan, who's reigniting the past, if you will, and kind of bringing this magazine back, bringing back the OG, as they're saying, so that's cool. I also wanted to say shout out to Glenn. I know we often will say Dizzy's name, but Glenn Brown, if you haven't checked out the Custom Scene podcast, that's cool. And I know Nads, not another damn show, right? Those guys, Adam and Dizzy, I'm sure they're going to be recapping if they haven't already. So stay tuned to Out There. Just know, as Mike mentioned, the Spark Show is a great time. Anything else, Mike, on the Spark Show before we get sideways into the next topic?
Hey, like you said earlier, I just want to give props and thanks to our boy Chad Luke and letting us hang out and chill with us and letting us ride with him and that beautiful chariot of his. And I mean, it was just great that we actually got to be able to hang out with royalty like that.
Oh yeah. My closing thoughts on this, thanks DJ Mays. He hung out, as I mentioned, with Diggity Dom. He did a great job on the set. The stage was in a great spot. I know Madhouse, I got to hang out with them a little bit. LMC and the crew, I got to hang out with them a bunch Saturday night, so it was cool to float around town with them. I can't thank Lee enough. Meeting Scotty, one of my severed brothers, and kind of meeting some of his friends, and just really no agenda. Just, Kirk had a good time. We got, he said, hey, I got to meet some new guys. It really, at the end of the day, you go to a show, yeah, because the trucks are there. Ronnie says it best. The trucks are cool, but the people are cooler. Great catchphrase. But for me, it's a lot of just being able to go to an event, and it's the whole thing. It encapsulates everything. That 3 or 4 day weekend potentially depending on how much time you can take. And the trucks were cool. I mean, it was hot, but that's like a given. Do the other things like Mike kind of started off with. So thesparkshow.com, of course, on social media. You guys know, if you listen to this podcast, they're good people, and we're going to continue to promote their event, a past OLP show of the year. Again, the general updates is brought to you by our family at Lone Star Throwdown. LoneStarThrowdown.com. Now, Mike, the ironic thing about promoting Lone Star Throwdown, you might ask, well, hey, is it hard to promote Lone Star Throwdown? It's not. But we are here to tell you and I guess we could call this official news, breaking news. We're at the time of this recording, we're 184 days, 13 hours, 9 minutes, and some odd seconds away. Now, many of you are, if you haven't already pre-registered, those are gone. It's sold out. There's some hiccups. They worked to improve it. Third time was a charm, Mike, and they made it happen. The key thing for everyone to know is this. If you don't have the golden ticket, as I'll call it, to be able to patch yourself in with the ride, fear not. February 23rd, 24th, 25th, come on out, gallivant out, fly out, drive out, take a train, damn it. Damn, take an Uber like Hank does. Get out to Conroe, Texas, buy you a wristband, and just go out and have a good time because it is a fantastic event. Last year was super hot. It just was, everything was great. Come see the vendors, come see the trucks, come hang out with OLP, LoneStarThrowdown.com for more. Mike, I got one question for you.
Are you ready? Oh, my bad.
Now it's time to get serious.
Are you ready, brother? And this one's going to be a fun one, man. I kind of have a feeling you're going to get this one, but that could jinx you. Mike, back in good old 1985, Michael J. Fox, of course, he was ablaze with Back to the Future that came out July 4th weekend of 85. That was the number one movie in the world. But did you know another film starring Michael J. Fox came out shortly after that? Just about a month and a half later, maybe call it 7 weeks later. That other film also came out starring Michael J. Fox, and it was second in the box office, only to, by the way, the other film that he was starring in, which was Back to the Future. Okay? So I ask you, and I ask the Airhead Nation, what was this second film that I'm talking about that came out about a month and a half later that starred Michael J. Fox? So you got to think about it.
Okay.
Mike.
So you're not giving me any more hints. This is all you're giving me because we know you're the guru.
Right,
okay?
but okay, so here's the big hint. So think about the two big movies that Michael J. Fox had in 85. We already know Back to the Future was one. 6 weeks later, he comes out with this one. No, it wasn't like Michael Jackson Thriller, okay?
Yep.
But we did see that he kind of had some surf, this might throw you off. He kind of, I felt like he could maybe surf after watching this movie.
See, now you gave me the clue, and that's the clue
See,
I was looking
that's
for.
exactly what I was trying not to do.
And I know, but dude, surfing in the
Man, dude, I think we're in the wrong decade. I think you were.
But listen, check this out. But not only could he surf, but damn, that dude could play some damn basketball too, bro.
Right,
dude. So not only, dude. But the thing that blows my mind is the hairier he got, the higher he could jump, the better he could surf. So yes, this is absolute. Now you know what, Jay? This movie here is guaranteed a cult classic.
Dude, it's a CC. It's a patched in 100% cult classic. I think Mark Holton was the heavyset guy that was known as, I think, Chubby in the movie. And he was also in the Pee Wee Herman movie. He was the one that stole his bike. So that was the other tie-in there. But Mike, good job, dude. Congratulations, bro.
Well, like I said, I thought that's what it was at first when you said it. Because I ain't gonna lie. I mean, I honestly think that Teen Wolf was a better movie than Back to the Future.
Oh, come on, dude. I mean, dude, you really want it. You really want me to get the. I said I'll buy the boxing gloves for Eastbound Get Down. You know what I mean? I'll expense them if I have to.
You keep talking about this boxing.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, hey, we got to come through this time because we got to come through with this wrestling match with that other podcast. Are we even allowed to mention that other podcast on our podcast anymore?
Yeah, I did a little bit ago. It's going to be the Wrestle Off, so it's going to be. We don't want to give away the rules yet. I actually, believe it or not, I did a trial run with Diggity Dom at what was the one place we went to with it looked like the
Junction 35.
Junction 35. So when you guys were over there boozing, I was keeping my mind on other things, and I said, "Hey Dom, let's play the Wrestle Off game." You know what I mean? And
so did you wrestle him to the ground?
It's a long story.
Don't give away the details.
Right, because I don't want to have them. They don't need no home court advantage in Florida because we live here. It's our home court advantage. In addition to that, last weekend I got to see. Well, I couldn't see him for some reason. I don't know what that was. Kevin Hairbear said something about I couldn't see him, and I didn't know what that meant. But John Cena, I bumped into him with Kirk. So that I told him about the Wrestle Off thing, and he said that he might want to sponsor it, on Eastbound.
Nice. Well, what's so funny is the fact that when me and Scotty the Body were talking, Scott's like, "Oh, did you see that he's seen John Cena?" I was like, "You can't see me." I was like, "He didn't see John Cena because you can't see." He goes, and I said, "Yeah, but the only problem is Jason isn't gonna know that gimmick." So
he called me when he was headed up to New York, Scotty the Body, and he thought you were rapping the Tupac, Homies Can't See Me, you know what I mean? So and it gave me confidence that you are working on the album. So I was like, okay, good. He's trying to get his lyric, so long story. But here's one crazy fun fact, and there's a big about Teen Wolf. You can look it up. It's not going to pull up any weird images, but there was a rumor, and I've read that it's true, and I've read that it's not true. But if you go down what's the word I'm looking for? If you go down the bunny trail,
I thought it was the rabbit hole.
The rabbit hole. Look up Teen Wolf in some. I don't know. Like man pulls his junk out. Let's just call it what it is. Supposedly, before it came out on VHS, when it was in the movie theater, there's a scene where you can see somebody in the stands, like the old wooden deals where everybody sits in the gym, and the bleachers. Thank you. Someone supposedly pulls out their junk, and that was kind of the running thing, and they caught it before it went on VHS. But if you go out there and you read some things, there's a website, avclub.com. They say on the 30th anniversary, an older article, of course, they say debunking Teen Wolf's greatest rumor. Yes, it's a penis thing. So, yeah, weird. But, again, it's not going to come up. I guess depending on the words you search, it could come up kind of weird. But, yeah, there's a tie-in about that somehow, some way. Trivia with Miggity Mike the Mayor is brought to you by our family, as we talked about a moment ago, The Spark Show. Get ready for the second week in August 2024. thesparkshow.com. There's going to be more information coming. Again, it's an amazing event. And I had a lot of people, including, if this is the stamp of approval you're looking for, Mr. Phil Fowler punched his ticket and he said, "Yo, I'm adding this show," just from the show coverage that we posted, to my list for 2024. So if Phil Fowler's doing it, you better do it, kinfolk.
Oh, you are not lying there, because that is the OG of all OGs. And if he's making his way to Pigeon Forge, you want to be there. You want to be there as well.
Oh yeah. So Mike, I'm gonna swap this up here. The next segment is ODB live and uncut, Hut 1, Hut 2, Hut 3, Hut, Old Dirty Ballard live and uncut. But I'm gonna switch it up. I'm gonna put you on the hot spot. Mini Truckin Magazine used to have the hot seat, but I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna flip the script. Like Ruben did that one time when he interviewed me. I'm going to ask you this. If we had a Miggity Mike the Mayor live and uncut, what's like a positive thing that you've kind of seen maybe? Because I've switched this up, right? It used to be kind of more of a negative, but now it's all a more of a positive. What's maybe a positive thing that you've kind of seen the last couple of years as a show promoter, as a club guy, right? Part of Aftermath, but also just kind of as an enthusiast to the scene of ours?
Well, a positive that I would have to say is I would think, like, for example, that Friday night at the pre-party, there were so many different clubs there at that pre-party. There were so many different podcasts, people that own podcasts and do podcasts at that pre-party, and we were all hanging out. It didn't matter what shirt, what hat, what club logo. It didn't matter what we had on. We were all there chilling, having a good time. And to me, that was definitely a positive in the scene. And so that's why I say that that whole weekend. I mean, in our OLP booth that weekend, I mean, we had No Regrets in our booth. We had NC in our booth. Actually, I think it was just those two, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Yeah. Just so we had multiple clubs. There was tons of different clubs there at the Spark Show. Everybody's mingling. Everybody's having a good time. But I really noticed it that Friday night at the pre-party, and so it's good to see that everybody's out there hanging out together and having a damn good time. How was that, Jay?
I love it, Mike. That's a tick mark for your binder if I've ever heard one.
Oh man, I love when I get tick marks.
Dude, ODB Live and Uncut. Actually, Mickey Mike the Mayor Live and Uncut this week, brought to you by Joey at Get Decked. If you're a show promoter, or you're a good main squeeze, maybe you're a good wife, maybe you're a good husband, and you want to put a photo or some artwork on a skate deck, hit up Joey Dilworth. It's getdecked_VA, or search Joey Dilworth on Facebook. Send him a direct message. He can make it happen. Someone hit me up at the Spark Show and said, yo, I want to put some of my mini trucks on skate decks. How do I do it, ODB? And I got him the information. Joey Dilworth, the big homie. Mike, next we got the scene updates, dude. So the new street trucks did come. This is the new issue, and Carrie's SUV, Tahoe, is on the cover. So Carrie Daigle, right, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. Phil Fowler shot it. And what's cool...
My aftermath brother.
Yeah, and here's the cool thing. Eddie Gordy gets the what's often referred to as the insert shot on the cover. Southeast Mini Truck and Nats gets the headline, if you will, which is amazing. Jason Bell and team. And dare we remind you, next April, if you were a mini trucker or you love the scene, right? We're not going to call you out and say, if you're not there, you're not a real mini trucker. Look, we're not going to do that. But what I'm going to say is this. If you are a mini trucker or you love the scene, you best be in Maggie Valley for the 30th annual Southeast Mini Truck and Nats, also known for short as Mini Nats. I can't wait for it. But Mike, so check this out. Not only do you have Carries on the cover, you've got a C10, a K5, a 4Runner, a Maverick, an old school dually, and an old school C10. That's patina. So we've continued to see a good mix here. The one vehicle that I want to call out is on page 78. You guys will see the Forever 4Runner, another one saved from the junkyard. Brandon Burrell shot it. And this truck, I know, has since changed hands. I know the guy that ended up with it. And there's a guy named Tone of TLC Fabrication in Vegas had taken time on rebuilding the 4Runner, and it kind of goes on to talk about Patrick Miller of Liberty, South Carolina, and some of that transition and this build. But Brandon did a cool shoot. He kind of had some low-light photos in here, and I wanted to say, hey, thanks again, Brandon, for running mini trucks. If you guys haven't, renew your subscription if you can, and check it out. Eddie Gordy, tip of the cap. We hope to see more coverage of Eddie's truck. He's continuing to just add more and more and more, and I love seeing it, Mike.
Bro, every time we have these minis, that's why I'm so glad Mini Truck Magazine is back, so we can have no problem with full-size truck, no problem at all, have no problem with old school trucks, but dude, there is just something about these mini trucks. And going to the Spark Show, there was a weekend full of mini trucks, and it was fucking awesome.
Yeah,
loved it.
It definitely was, man. And we're super stoked because we want to see more of that. A few things I saved on Facebook. I know Adam and Dizzy said multiple thank yous. I love that Adam Tripp, used one of the images that, him and Dizzy are doing so good with some of these images. I know Dizzy Designs is helping a lot of show promoters with their social media presence. So I thought that was cool. Jeff Gaudette and team, they put on the Nor'easter, Mike, and I know every time you kept hearing this, you thought I was talking about the storm. And remember, Mike, Nor'easter, that wasn't a storm. That was a show. Okay, just so you know.
Okay.
I know Lowrider Depot was involved, many other people, but Jeff Gaudette gave us a huge shout out. I appreciate him kind of including us, and certainly I think that they've showed people that, hey, there is a need, there's a want for those type of events up there. So Nor'easter, if you're in the Pacific, or if you're in the Northeast, not the Pacific, if you're in the Northeast, just know that it's going to be going down. I have a feeling next year as well. Brian Wagner posted, Mike, they said we lost a great one today. Casey Gordon has been in the scene since I was a kid, and he kind of went on to say that he lost his fight. And, it's tough to cover these type of things. He says Dragon Paradise, my brother. And we try to do our best to highlight these great people, especially, unfortunately, when we lose them. And it takes a village. And, for Brian to post that, said a prayer for the homie. So rest in peace. I know Kayla Couch. It was cool to meet her and, some of, again, the Farva and some of the crew for, lowest common denominator. It was really awesome hanging out with them and cruising trucks around. So she had posted about another fun-filled weekend. Steve Carter posted a really cool Mazda, Mike. I think, dude, if I send this one to you, you're going to have to go back to the drawing boards because, he's talking about House of Color candy, brandy wine, laid out. I mean, just all kinds of stuff, dude. And this red Mazda with the 4x4 sheet metal, dude, toppling the scene. Love seeing it, dude. And I love that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see here as I try to wind this segment down.
Well, man, hey, I got one for you, and we can't forget because we got to include the ladies. But one of the past featured trucks on OLP, 2 ladies' trucks were featured. She just won a very prestigious award. Did you happen to see that?
Yes, I did see that.
Oh, there you go. Let's talk about that, bro. We got to spotlight the ladies.
Yeah, so break it down, man. Since you're gonna, because you have been learning the breakdance, right? Because the album's coming soon.
Oh, dude, I've been learning how to breakdance. I've been learning how to do the cha-cha-cha. Dude, I am ready.
Cool. So yeah, let us know what happened.
So, anyways, our girl Brooke Hoover, she won there. She lives there in Jacksonville, and she won the signed. What is it? The how do you pronounce it? What is the exact? She won an award for being I think for a scientist or something.
Yeah. How you pronounce it, Mike?
I don't know. That's why I asked you to help me out here, brother.
See, that's what everyone makes fun of how I say how you pronounce. But not only that, but it is her born day, by the way. So let's just be honest.
Oh, dude! Hey, even bigger reason to bring up her name.
Yeah, it's so let me pronounce it for you. You know how you pronounce, Mike? It's a FDLE, the FDLE, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, I believe is what that stands for. Forensic Scientist of the Year, dude.
Okay, so forensic
Scientist of the Year, Brooke Hoover, Crime Laboratory Analyst, Jacksonville Regional Operations Center, J-Rock.
Wow,
dude.
J-Town.
And that makes another reason why, and you guys love when we do these tie-ins, on the OLP shirt, right, with Karen Moore's amazing Toyota and with Brooke's amazing Jimmy's Running Customs Built Ranger, we had the DNA strand on it. Okay, whether you notice that or not, that DNA ties into her role. Every time I talk to Brooke, Mike, I always love chatting with her because my wife gets a little worried. I watch so many of these like true crime. I'm listening to all these podcasts. She gets a little worried, like, hey, what kind of weird shit am I into? Right? But Mike, I'm not into any weird shit, right? I mean, you know that.
No, okay. No, not at all.
I just needed that for the record. You know what I mean? But talking to Brooke and knowing the stuff that she's had to testify on things, and she's a true constant professional. And I tell you, Mike, if you're anybody in the scene and you ever disrespect someone like a Brooke Hoover, that's when you're gonna have problems, man. Because she is good people, man. And not only do we love her truck, but I love her career and I love what she's doing, and she's really, like you said, I'm so glad that you mentioned this because I forgot to save this in our little list. She's due all the kudos that she's getting and that she's gonna get. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Mike, dude, thanks, man. Like, I literally, I'm like, I want to. We got to call her next week and be like, yo, Brooke, or 2 weeks. You know, let's break it down. Let's talk some DNA stuff. You know what I mean? And maybe we'll have to remix a DNA deal. You know what I mean? Because I know, Mike, you're talking about, you know, doing some remixes and stuff with headbands and all kinds of stuff for Eastbound though. Eastbound Get Down.
Oh yeah. Hey, when is Eastbound Get Down? Do you happen to know?
I don't know because, dude, all I know is as long as my Packers are in the playoffs with Jim Mora voice, I may not be going to Eastbound Get Down because whoever the show promoter is, because I was on this website the other day, dude, not the one you're thinking, but eastboundgetdownshow.com. They are working on the website, unfortunately, but I saw on that little deal called Instagram that it's the 14th, 15th, 16th of January?
It would be the 12th, 13th, and 14th of January.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And registration will open up September 1st at eastboundgetdownshow.com. So this year it's going to be a little bit different because what we're going to do is we're going to have the red shaded area. You're going to have a map there on the website. You're going to be able to see where the red shaded area is. That's going to be a certain price. That's going to be the red zone. You're going to buy your red zone parking permit, and then we're going to have the pavilion parking, the covered pavilion parking, and then we're going to have the blue zone. And so there's going to be three different price breakdowns. You'll be able to see the map. You don't have to choose a spot. You can choose that when you get to the show, but there's going to be so many spots in each section. And you just go ahead and get your registration spot and get registered on the website, and we look forward to seeing you guys in January there at Eastbound Get Down. Can't wait. And also the vendors are going to be able to pre-register. They're going to register on September 1st as well. There on the website.
Yeah, I might check out the show, Mike. I mean, I've heard some things about it, and you know.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. No,
yeah, I mean, I was there last year. I mean, Thad was there. I mean, if Thad came from Pennsylvania, why couldn't someone come from Tampa, right?
Hey, true story. I love it. Dude, I love it.
The last couple things I see here is, number one, our friends over at Showdown in the Valley, October 6th, 7th, and 8th. They have a billboard, Mike, and I hope that one day...
They have taking it to the next level.
I hope that Eastbound can one day get to that level, dude. The 6th, 7th, and 8th. If you maybe want to experience the mountains, the foliage, the coolness of, you know, the South, if you will, in that awesome time of year, then gallivant on up or down to Maggie Valley, North Carolina, the 6th, 7th, and 8th. And it's going down. Showdown in the Valley, Mike. And it's a tip of the cap to those guys. I love seeing them. They were at the Spark Show.
Yes, they were, and it's always good to talk to those guys. And man, talk about going big time, bro. I mean that's big time right there.
Yeah, I feel like October's kind of this 1, 2, 3, 4 punch. Now I know. Here's where I'm thinking, dude. You know, like when Tyson, you know, he gets the one swing, and then he gets the other one, and then you get the last uppercut, and the guy goes down. You know, you're thinking like Showdown in the Valley. A week later, cruising with cruisers up in Kentucky. We're going to be gallivanting up there. There's so many people are headed to Whitesburg, dude. I mean, NC, I'm hearing all these different camps. Thad's coming down, you know, Severed Petitioner. Dude, it's going to get wild and fun, right? We're going to keep it legal because Mike's going to be, you know, Deputy Mike. He already said, look, if Hank floats in town, we're going to basically kind of do... did you ever watch growing up the Andy Griffith Show? You know, like Otis, you know? Otis just maybe had a little one too many, and they would just kind of give him a place to stay overnight. Let's just leave it at that, right? So if they could corral... corral? If they could kind of corral Hank into, like, the local facility, you know, that's how Mike Burton is going to help maintain the streets of Whitesburg that weekend. But so let me get back to my point. So you got the 1, 2, 3 punch. You got biggity boom. You come in over the top with Showdown in the Valley. Then you hit them with the left with Cruising with Cruisers, and then you come with, dude, just an uppercut with The Last Resort in Louisiana. And boom, right there, dude, knocked out. That's all you need. Those three right there, and you're having a good time.
Man, I can't wait. It's going to be an awesome time. And, I mean, what better weather than that time of year there in Maggie Valley, man. I can't wait.
I love it. Okay, here's the last couple because I got to get through this. Kyle Fannin, he went to Mr. B's Park. Shout out to Kyle, a good friend of ours, C10 guy, but a truck enthusiast by heart. Great dude. He went to Attitude Check, so he got a chance to go see Joey and team over there. I thought that was awesome. Our friend James Day Knight, he, of course, had this unbelievable photo shoot with his S10. My intel says that we will see more of this S10 in the very near future. This was also cool, Mike, in the mini truck. I was in a mini truck car club in the 80s and 90s group. Daniel Ness says caught up with this guy 31 years later, the OG painter of the mini truck in 92, Michael Imler. So that was kind of cool. Frank, he had a plan. Frank Eisenhower, we hung out with him. He had a plan to meet Vanilla Ice, and he did. Which was super cool. So when Vanilla Ice, he went to the concert, he dressed like Vanilla Ice, and he got to meet him, which I thought was badass. The last two I got, Brian Brubaker is steady working on the hard body, so tip of the cap. And Mike, dude, we could not talk about this. Do you know a guy by the name of John Lopez? Did you see you never heard of him, right?
No. You mean the smalls of my talls?
Yeah, the smalls of your talls. Dude, did you see how he and Kim single-handedly did a mic drop? And here's the thing. John knows this stuff doesn't happen overnight. We all know this. It's a lot of hard work. That dude's a hard-working dude, true enthusiast. We had over 340,000 views. I don't do it for views. I actually wish we didn't have that many on the post that he posted. Jimmy's Running Customs Built, Aftermath, reppin'. There was so much good stuff on that post, and there was a lot of hate. I tell you what, Mike, there's a lot of filthy people out there. I would love to see just one of them, one of the punk. I'm not going to say it. I'll stay positive. One of the punk, you know what? He said something, and I was like thinking to myself, could you imagine them seeing, like, could you imagine John sit down in a chair and someone said something to him, and he stood up, and it's like one of those movies, like Hightower stands up, and someone goes, "Oh, I messed up." You know what I mean? Because
I done fucked up now.
Yeah, and you and I both know John is not violent, okay? But I'm telling you, listen, try to keep things in life positive. When people, they love to try to rile you up on social media, but I'm telling you what, some of the people need to watch their mouth because they're saying some pretty filthy shit. And that's why I don't want to go viral. I don't want listen, you go, hey, Jay, it helps the page, you're growing and stuff. Yeah, I get all that. But when you start getting an influx of people that are not part of your scene, they don't understand why we do what we do, and they're telling you what a piece of trash you are, and this truck that you put all this time and money in is garbage. Listen, I know they're trying to flap us up. They'll never do it. But listen, people, be respectful, man. These kids that are growing up, they're not all Gen Zers, by the way. These people that are growing up in the social media world, they think they can say anything because they got that buffer. Little do they know, we got Scotty the Body in our ring and John Lopez, dude. And if we got those two guys behind us, I don't think anyone's effing with us, Mike.
See, that's the thing, man, is just, first of all John don't have to do anything. He don't even have to say anything. Like you said, all he's got to do is just stand up. And that's it.
Right. That's what I told John. I go, John, if you hang out with Mike, he should be charging you because you basically have built in, like when the Gallivant Man, when that album comes out and there's the release party, my understanding is going to be billing, our company for this, because, he can't be doing this stuff for free.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth?
All right, so the scene updates, long-winded, brought to you by our family at Garage Gear Clothing. The holidays are coming. Go to garagegearclothing.com. They, of course, are at numerous events worldwide. Free shipping on orders $100 or more. They have sport trucks, C10s, patinas, F100s, Garage Girl, Garage Babies. You name it, garagegearclothing.com. Mike, we got to start to wind this down. Industry news. I don't know if you saw this. I know you don't follow things maybe as close as I do. I talked last week about potential changes for CarPlay coming up in the new Chevys. There's word basically that Ford is going to roll out in the near future something called Blue Cruise. I'm not making this up. Blue, like is in the Ford color, and then Cruise. It's driver assistant feature. It's going to be built into an increased number of models. This is according to the IoT World website, Internet of Things. I say that, Mike. Guess how much they're going to try to charge people a month or a year to have this service?
So I'm going to say, let's say $245
For a month or a year?
a year.
It says they're gonna offer a free 90-day trial, because you got to rope them in, Willie. If the customer decides they want to activate, hey Mike, you want to activate the $75 per month?
What?
Well, no, hey, better deal. $800 per year. Deal?
Holy shit!
You giving me your credit card? I activate your driver assist.
I
give a blowjob when you drive. Credit card number?
I think I pass.
No, dude, he had the last deal that would have sealed the deal. I thought the Blizzilton is activated.
No, I'm not interested. I think I'll pass.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking $75 a month. I mean, shit, I could go get like a Chevette or something, and just drive the Chevette. I love Chevettes, by the way. Industry news brought to you by AccuAir. AccuAir.com. They've helped me out in the past. They're good people. If you want to add the air ride assist, I guess you could call it, push a button, your car or truck go to a certain level, visit AccuAir.com. Mike, I think I'm going to wind it down there because here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call Ruben now, and I'm going to talk to him about lowriders in music videos, TV shows, and number one, movies. Some of our famous ones. Do you have any one lowrider? Not your favorite, but what's one that comes to mind in a music video, a TV show, or a movie? Just one. Any one you can think of. Any movie. All
right. So just one, and the one that has to be my all-time favorite is got to be the 64 that Ice Cube drives when he's in Today Was a Good Day video.
Yeah, that one was called Family Jewel. And the big homie Tim Davis got to see that one back in 1992 with the Lowrider show. He sent me the photo of it. And
nice.
That greenish kind of bowling ball, I think it was at the time, paint job. Very cool. We'll tell the story here shortly, too. We'll talk to Joey. He'll talk about how he sold his 64 rag and who it went to, a true legend and icon. I think that's all I got, Mike.
Bro, I can't wait to hear this story. This is going to be awesome.
It definitely is, Mike. Stay on the rise and stay dry out there, brother.
Hey, appreciate you. Thank you, sir. Airhead Nation, we out ya.
Hey, so we got Ruben on the phone. And Ruben, when I thought about this episode, having Joey on, talking about who he sold his car to, we're going to hear from him shortly. I thought, man, I got to link up with the big homie Ruben and talk a little bit about pop culture, a little bit about cars and things like that, man. Are you down for that?
I am always down for that. Jay, I hope you're doing well, and I hope everybody out there is doing well as well. And, yeah, let's talk some pop culture. Let's talk some cars.
Thanks, man. I would encourage people to check out C1500 Nonsense. That's your page, Ruben, and it's on the rise.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
No doubt. So here's something that I've always thought about. We kind of did this. It was ironic. 2 years ago, we had Joey on. And I'll just kind of summarize that. I feel like depending on if you were a 70s and 80s and 90s kid, like, the mix between both of us, I kind of just feel like I was born in a good era because, the late 80s, NWA starts coming out, obviously Ice-T, so many others even before these guys. And then, boom, Death Row Records starts technically 91, but, you end up with this vibe, this G-Funk era that a lot of times, Warren G, Above the Law, Dr. Dre, they're all kind of credited with that funk. But, dude, I mean, you and I both know when you start thinking about, Eazy-E talking about rolling down the street in his 6.4 and with Dr. Dre and some of the videos and the imagery and the St. Ides commercials, to me, like, I was at a good age where all that just really meshed together. And I think you kind of get that.
Yeah, I get it. And you know what? And growing up, I'm a little older than you are, and growing up in, you know, the 70s and 80s and 90s and whatnot, and here on the West Coast, car culture, whether it's lowriders, mini trucks, or the Volkswagens or whatever. I mean, it's as long as the weather's nice, it's in your face. You know, you see a plethora of it out on the streets. So yeah, you know, like during the '90s, early '90s, when you know, the whole Death Row records started blowing up, and you know, even before that with Eazy and NWA and all that, you would see, you know, whether it was a 64 or, you know, that era Impala on hydraulics, or you would see the Samurais, you know, with the 15 by 10s with the big systems. I mean, you would see all of that out here.
You would, and that's something that a lot of people have brought up, especially even in the Lincoln community. They've said, hey, California, you know, whether people love it or hate it, I know there's a big divide out there on certain things. And oh, by the way, to our California listeners, you know, we hope that you guys are okay. We know that Ruben, you and I talked about it as well. You know, we know a big storm came through there. You know, I know some people said kind of hyped up in some areas, but other people did experience some difficulties. So we hope everyone's okay. And then, oh, by the way, a couple of, you know, earthquakes. So, you know, we hope everyone's okay out there. But as you know, something that goes hand in hand with California not only is music, but really the custom car culture. You know, going back to the Woodies and the Surfing USA days, and, you know, even the lowriders. I mean, I think those guys have been lowriding since, like, you know, post-war stuff, right? So, you know, you're going on, dare I say, you know, 50, 60, 70, 80 years of lowriding when you really break it down. And you can't really, I can't think of California without thinking of cars, lowriders, surfing, all of that stuff, man, that greatness.
Right. And, you know, a lot of that, I mean, well, you go a little deeper than that, and it all started, you know, in the late 40s, early 50s with the hot rodders, you know, the guys coming back from World War II. And so, I don't know, when I think of our car culture here, that's how far back that I think of. And a lot of the hot rod stuff, I'm around that stuff all day long, and I get it, I appreciate it, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's really not my thing. I mean, I grew up in the era that I grew up in, and you know, I have my favorites, you know, and yeah, I am a mini trucker. I like my trucks. I love my full sizes, but you know, that's what I like. But I do appreciate where we came from and where we got our I don't know, our ideas, our influences, so to speak. And you know, I do appreciate all of it, and especially out here on the West Coast, you know, like I said, you see it everywhere. And the time that I lived in Arizona, I knew that it was a big car culture as well, but I really didn't get it until I moved out there. And same as out here, given any nice Saturday afternoon, you will see those cars out on the road.
Totally agree. And again, it kind of goes back to me, like, you think of the VWs, how big they are, the Woodies and all of that. But something that people may not realize, obviously we're getting older each day, when you think back, and, you know, let's talk about, you know, music videos, TV, and movies, of course. And movies, I think, is the primary lion's share. When you think back, Ruben, to what's, like, if I were to ask you, what's a lowrider that's kind of etched in your mind from any movie? It could be a current movie or a past movie. Is there any one, if I were to pose that question to you, that really kind of comes to mind?
You know, the first true lowrider that I ever saw had to have been back in, 1975 or so, when I was a little kid living in Chicago. And it was Chico the Man, Gypsy Rose.
Yes.
You know,
and that's one on my list. And if you guys go, I want to give a shout out. There's a couple of videos, obviously, go on YouTube. There's one that has over 10,000 views, and he's kind of broke down some of these, but that brought that one back because Gypsy Rose was in Chico and the Man. And of course, if you go on, you know, the websites and things like that, you know, you'll get a chance to see that. That was a TV series, technically, though, I think, right?
Yes, it was. It was a sitcom from the 70s that I believe it only ran maybe one series with him, and then after his untimely death, they tried to keep it going, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah, definitely. And when I think of, if you were to pose the question to me, there's a couple that come to mind. I think movie-wise for me, the genre, the era that I grew up in, is got to be Boys in the Hood. People talk about that car, which I believe is known as Touch of Gold. Some people even argue and say, hey, it was ahead of its time. I mean, certainly you could say, hey, Gypsy Rose and like all these other cars, but like for some of us at that age, like when we saw that car, we're like the color, the gold wheels, it just had it all, and that one's the one that comes to mind for me for a movie. And then I think I would have to say, Ice Cube, It Was a Good Day / G-Thang / Dre with Let Me Ride. Those are kind of really forever etched in my mind.
Right. The car from Boys in the Hood, I mean, that was, 30 years ago or so?
Yeah.
Somewhere along those lines?
Yeah, 91, I want to say.
Yeah, something 91, 92, somewhere along that line. And honestly, I mean, if you look at that car in that movie today, that car's timeless. So, to me, that's probably one of my favorite lowriders that appeared in the movie.
Yeah, 1,000%. And when I was kind of putting this list together, I think I did a shorter list back 2 years ago. Literally, it's so ironic. We had Joey on 2 years ago this week, August of 2021, and another car that comes to mind for me, which was big, Tupac was supposed to be in Menace to Society, and there's that riff that he had with the Hughes brothers over some of the table readings and things like that. But remember the Mustang even in there, and I know you could kind of say, well, it's not really a lowrider, but it has wire wheels, and that style, you and I have talked about it, that style is back bigger than ever.
Right, and I remember those cars, whether they were a convertible or a hatchback. I mean, those cars they were hot. They were all over the place.
Yeah, for everything from Vanilla Ice and Rolling on My 5.0 to obviously Menace and just different music videos and things like that. Now I got to give a shout out to all of the kinfolk in the longest title of any Facebook group, but one of my favorite Facebook groups. I was in a mini truck / car club in the 80s and 90s. 19, almost on the cusp of 20,000 members. And a lot of these guys chimed in. Now, some I had on my list, some I didn't. But I'm just going to throw a couple out, and then we'll stop and we'll talk about them, and then we'll kind of continue. But I talked about It Was a Good Day, also known as Today Was a Good Day video. That car, Family Jewel, shout out to Tim Davis. Tim and I talked about in the past. He got to see that car. He went with a buddy onto a trip to California back in 92, and they happened to go to the Lowrider show. And he literally had a photo that he had shared, and that was the same car that they had used for the video, which was kind of cool. But
nice. That
one's etched in my mind. Friday, so Big Worm 61 Impala, the orange one, but also think about Up in Smoke, dude. People are still trying to replicate that car.
Right. The people are the van from
the van. The van.
Next movie too. Also, they've been trying to replicate that van as well.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. That's what it was. Yeah. And then the 64 Impala in that one with the blue door is the one that I always think of in Up in Smoke.
Right, with the fuzzy dash and all that.
You got to love the front license plate, though, Muff Diver. I mean, Hank did.
Right.
I think Hank came up with that.
Right. That's his plate now.
Yeah, it is. It is.
When we were talking about this earlier, we were talking about, those movies in particular, it kind of rang a bell in my head, and it was something that Billy Bob talked about when he was on the podcast, and that was Corvette Summer.
Yes.
And there's that part where he's hitchhiking to Vegas, and he gets picked up by that lowrider club on their way to Vegas. And I think he jumps out of the car because they're going too slow for him. And there was everything from, I believe there was a Riviera, there was a Vega. There's like all sorts of different cars in that little caravan. But yeah, that movie as well. Like, it was a big influence on me as well as a kid. And I remember watching that movie at my cousin's house. It was either on TV or Select TV. So that's how far back, that was when I saw that.
Dude, awesome memories. And I really think if Hank had a license, he would be driving the Corvette Summer Corvette, nowadays. That is his style, ain't it?
Well, that and that van that chick had in that movie.
Dude, when the vans are rocking, man, I would not come you know what? But think about, too,
That's
this. As a kid, I remember my parents would try to, I was born in 78, so, obviously with Up in Smoke comes out in 78. But as a kid, my parents had HBO. Somehow, again, Land O'Lakes, we had cable. And they would kind of try to hide my eyes from some of these movies. But I think of, like, Born in East L.A. Now, granted, that was 87. It really had the epitome of the car culture. The 64, there's a 64 Impala Super Sport in that one. There's various cars. But that, to me, was like, you couldn't have a Cheech and Chong movie without either some smoke, obviously, or some lowriders.
Right, and in that movie in particular, he's driving a lowered bug on alloys, I want to say. So, I mean, that is perfect for that time, back in California.
Yeah, it definitely was. It hits it there. Now, a lot of people chimed in with this one, Boulevard Nights. So if you think about this movie, 79 again, kind of the era I was, born in, so many cars, right? Obviously, that movie is a classic. Now, I'll be totally honest, I haven't seen it in a long time, so I went back and I watched some clips, like kind of like on YouTube and stuff. But it's in an era in the late 70s when a lot of these cars, a 54, Chevy Bel Air was, 20, 25 years old. The 64 Impala was, 12 years old, right? It was ironic because, like, the cars were classic, instant classics, but at the same time, they were still relatively new, like a 72 Monte Carlo. You think, oh, that's a classic car. It was only 7 years old then.
Right. There was, that portion, late 70s, early 80s, man, there were a bunch of car movies, or I call them car movies, or that involved, around cars and stuff. And there was one other movie. It was called, I believe it's called Van Nuys Boulevard.
Yes.
And it was just about Cruzy Valley. I believe you and I talked about this at one point.
Yep.
I've looked for it. I think I've found clips on YouTube, but I haven't found the whole movie. But yeah, there's clips of it on YouTube, and I remember watching it as a kid on basic cable or on TV or whatever we had at the time. And yeah, it was just, I just watched just to see what cars were involved.
Oh, here's one for you. So this one was a deep cut from one of the videos that I had mentioned, and I'll get to it. There's a video called Dropped and Hopped on YouTube, his channel, and he talks about lowriders from movies and TVs, right? So I would tell people to check it out. But there was a movie in '83 called Heartbreakers. There's various lowriders, and the lowriders in the movie are actually they're dragging like crazy. Now, whether I think they are dragging, they might have flares under them, but I'm pretty sure they're dragging. But that reinforces that mini truckers, we didn't create dragging, Ruben.
No, we didn't. I was a kid back. I was already living in Long Beach, and my cousin Richard was a little older than us. He had to this day, still has his 59 Impala, and then he had a early 80s Buick Regal, I think it was, and that car was set up for dragging. I knew it was like on 14s or 13 wires, or I believe they were wires, and yeah, that car was, at one time he hopped it, and then after, I guess he hurt some stuff underneath it and figured, I'm not doing that anymore, but it was set up for dragging. It had plates and stuff welded under the front cross members and along the sides of the frame rails and stuff. But yeah, I remember him driving that thing down the street in front of our house, just dragging it, going about 40 miles an hour.
Yeah, I want mini truckers to know, although dragging became a huge thing in the late 90s into the early 2000s, big in part to Domination Video, Oliver, we think, for that kind of that era. But again, low riding goes back to, like, I think you can even date it back to like the 40s and 50s, guys customizing the cars, the custom scene, if you will. Think about this. There's a few, and we won't go into a lot of detail with some of these, like Breakin' 2 was big, obviously, with the music and the dancing. Brotherhood of Justice is a deep cut from 86, various cars, but Billy Zane was in that movie, and that was his role after his first film, ironically enough, Back to the Future.
Wow.
Colors was big in 88. There's another movie. This one's kind of funny. This guy in the video that I mentioned, he covers this one. 89, She's Out of Control. It's got Tony Danza. and he drives off in a car playing La Bamba, and of course the car's throwing sparks and stuff. But again, that's 89, so that's 10, 11, 12 years past some of the movies like we talked about with Up in Smoke. So it kind of was reinforcing that really lowriders and that whole genre really was here to stay, right? It wasn't just in the late 70s. It obviously is transformed, and now obviously a few years ago, the Super Bowl.
Right, and I was going to bring that up. We can't forget talking about the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and how much, and that's what I want to hit on with Joey, because if you think about how much that you had I don't mean this in a bad way, but every Tom, Dick, and Harry the next day was looking for, quote, a lowrider, and I don't mean that in a bad way, because I love when people love a particular culture, but it just shows that people do appreciate it. They appreciate the music tie-in. I think again, Eazy-E really coined the phrase, 6-0 to a certain extent with his hit song. But then if you think about too, the Super Bowl being a couple years ago, Dre and team perform at it. Think about like Set It Off was a big movie in the 90s. There's the 62 Impala in there. Boulevard Nights. Dude, that one was a huge hit, and a lot of people in that Facebook group chimed in on that one as well.
Right, and there was also a movie in the early 90s by the name of Mi Vida Loca,
yes,
which they had a mini truck in it, and I believe a couple of lowriders as well.
Yeah, that is a good one. I was going to make sure I said that right. So that was someone also chimed in with that one, and I thought that was kind of cool. Now, this is one I don't remember. Steve Martin was in a film in the late 70s. I'm sure my dad, rest in peace, would have remembered this one, called The Jerk. And a lot of people
dude, you have to watch that.
Yeah, I got to watch it because Steve Martin, man, dude, he gets his kudos, but I mean, he's underrated. But the 72 Monte Carlo that I found in some of the screenshots, that thing looks sweet.
Yes, and I believe it's a gas station scene where that car appears. And yeah, it's one of those movies that I'm not sure they would be able to make that or remake it today.
Right?
But it's a classic. You have to watch it. You have to see it.
If it's a classic, Mike may have seen it. If it was a cult classic, he definitely hasn't seen it. Now, here's another movie I got to go back and watch. I watched it back when it came out on VHS back in the day. The Stallone flick, Cobra. It has a little fender bender in there. They filmed that right over in some of the scenes in Venice Beach. And there's a little fender bender in that one.
Right, and he's driving the Chop Mercury in that, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. And it's funny because, like Stallone, like that movie poster is so iconic, with him, with kind of all black there. That came out in 86. And again, people have done some of the movie site locations on that one. But it kind of just showing lowriders, we're here for the movies and TV, of course. Now, Andy Sargenis, I believe is how you say his name, he pointed out a movie called 187, and it has a Toyota mini truck. You know a little bit about Toyota mini trucks.
Just a little.
Now, I had not seen this film, and I don't know if there's a lot of information out there about it, but certainly that was cool that he chimed in with that. Now, something I wanted to point out. Also, there was a film in the 90s, Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood, when the Wayans brothers, they were kind of on their run of all those different spoofs that they did. There's a lowrider, of course, in that, and, the stigma, kind of the West and all that stuff was kind of cool.
Right.
Now, something that's going to be interesting, I'm going to talk to Joey about Dr. Dre a little bit. I don't want to give it all away, but there was an article little less than 2 years ago. A car had popped up on eBay, a 63 Impala, and this car, when I saw it, I was like, man, I got to figure out how to buy this car. It was priced lower than you would have thought. Now, it was still some money. I think they were asking $150,000, but the rumor was that Dre had owned this car, and under the rear seat, as you know, like these older cars, the rear seats kind of come out pretty easy typically. It had Dr. Dre's signature. Now, whether that was truly authentic, the guy claimed that, hey, I've got a photo of Dre signing it. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But autoevolution.com, they did an article, and I'm going to share that with everyone. And, this was back before the Super Bowl, and it's ironic how that same storyline is going to tie in, I think, with Joey here a little bit later. Now, Ruben, let me ask you this. When you think of a music video, now I gave you a couple hints earlier, is there any one music video that you maybe think of when you think of like car culture or lowriders?
Man, a number of the Ice Cube videos.
Yep. It was a good day.
Probably, right. More than anything, probably
G thing, right?
G thing. Anything with Snoop, that era. Yeah, it'd have to be a toss up between something Snoop did or something that it'd have to be that. It would have to be that, or Ice Cube, one of the two.
Yes, and that's what when I was young, and I'd watch the Ice Cube video, and it kind of just shows like the girl strolling up on the old school BMX bike. It kind of pans into his house. He's waking up, putting on his watch. His pager's there. Before cell phones, and he's rolling his low. He saw the police, and they just rolled right past him. Right, he hit the court, hit a triple double. You know what I mean? Everything went perfect on that day. And the car, to me, was like such a cool aspect of it because it really embodied the whole culture, the West Coast vibe. And little did we know, especially myself at that age, that I was just hooked, man. And it wasn't so much that he was driving. I mean, people were looking at the car in the video a little bit. And it wasn't so much that, hey, I want the attention, but it just was like, I just knew that's what I wanted to do. And now, granted, some of the listeners might go, hey, well, you're not a lowrider guy. I mean, I would argue, yeah, but it's all... To me, it's all part of the culture. You know what I mean? Right.
And, it's funny because we always had that here. We always had that, we had always had the lowrider culture here in, someone in our face. But it wasn't until those videos came out that the rest of the world got to see it and got to know it.
Yep.
But no, and I think if it wasn't for that era in music, I don't think it would have grown as much or as quickly as it did.
Oh, yeah. And think about this. So you have the Live and Die in L.A., right? So that summer before Tupac is unfortunately shot and then later dies, you have the 61 Impala, which is often referred as the Tupac Impala. Now, Long Beach Lloyd, as you know, owns that car now. I think, I could be wrong, I think Suge technically owned the car, but it is, of course, known as the Tupac car because it was in that video. But then Family Jewel, as we talked about It Was a Good Day video. One of my favorite songs, I love the West, there's a guy named CJ Mack, and he may not be a household name, but he's got that badass video, Come and Take a Ride. He's in a blue Impala. He says, rolled out the tray, of course, 63. Right. And I love, like, because Ruben, you'll remember this. In that era, the late 80s into the 90s, when you go back and you watch like a 90s, especially a West Coast video, the record companies were putting a lot of money and production into these videos, right? And I'll sometimes come across one that I've never seen, but that was helping sell the music. And like when I watch that video, I go, man, this is like another Good Day kind of vibe video.
Right. And, and a lot of artists too, like there was that artist, Kid Frost.
Yes.
And he had the
Ruthless. Yep.
Right. And he had, La Raza was a single, and he had a video with a bunch of lowriders and mini trucks. It was down like in the LA River and stuff. And again, that time in our culture, that time here in Southern California, that's what you'd go cruising the Boulevard on a Saturday night. That's what you would see, or Whittier, or any of the major cruise spots. You would see everything from the lowriders, the bombs, the mini trucks, to the Volkswagens, even the street bikes. I mean, everything and anything.
Yeah, and think back to the MTV era. I remember the year when they were like constantly playing Insane in the Brain, and then Coolio, Fantastic Voyage. That song is so timeless. And they showed all the people kind of coming out, the trickery of coming out of the trunk, and that album cover, how iconic it was, shot by Mr. Mike Miller. All of that stuff, to me, like, it literally embodies like certain years. I kind of go, hey, I remember the summer of 93, summer of 94. Oh yeah, this video was on constant rotation. And seeing that over and over and over again, like you said, I truly believe it helped to pull people in, a lot of people. And some people maybe listening to this going, oh yeah, you know what? I didn't realize how much it played a factor. And when I talk to Joey, I'll even bring up Criss Cross. You think about the Jump video, it has the two Impalas. Right. A lot of that, of course, was Jermaine Dupri driven. But if you look at a lot of their music and you go back, as corny as some people might think it is now, they were heavily influenced by the West. They sampled Dre, Snoop, all that stuff, and I thought it was awesome.
Right. And again, a lot of it was influenced by the West.
Oh yeah. So let me remind you on this. So one of my favorite videos, as you know, is the Nothing But a G thing, right? the cool thing is if you go watch I call it the uncut. I think there was a little bit longer version, and then for TV they kind of cut a little bit of it. But bottom line is, it starts with Dre pulling up in the Impala. He pulls up at Snoop's house. He gets out. He goes and gets them. They get in the car and they cruise. DOC's in there. But what's cool is if you look at the very beginning, they've got the crane shot, and the crane's right over the car, and it's kind of zoomed in right where the 8 switches are at on the dash, right? And it kind of pans out a little bit. And when I look at that vibe and I go back and I think of that blue, I think it was like that blue Impala, and I believe that's the same Impala that Daniel Jordan shot Dre the photo in for the inner sleeve on that album. But when I look back at that, and think about being able to go there last September and figure out that exact spot where Daniel Jordan shot those photos. And I think of that Impala, although I don't have a blue 64 Impala, I've got a blue 64 Lincoln. A lot of that still played its way into my mind of, hey, this is what I want to grow up. This is what I want to do when I grow up. I love this stuff.
Right. And that same feeling you get, that's what I get when I watched, some of those late 70s movies with, whether it was Corvette Summer or
like Born in East LA, Boulevard Nights.
Right, Born in East LA, or even, what was it, Crazy Larry, Dirty Mary, or whatever that was.
That wasn't even on my list, yeah.
Oh, yeah, but, it was that, those were the types of movies that I remember watching as a kid that just, that made me want to do this car thing, and even, like, the Smokey and the Bandit movies, even like a movie like Duel, where guys getting chased around by that old tanker truck. That stuff to me was, I would watch movies just to see what cars I would see in them. And then, of course, later on, movies like Corvette Summer, that was, custom car driven, it's like, once I found a movie like that, I wanted more of that.
Yeah, there was an episode of TJ Hooker that I believe had lowriders, TV movies. Non-lowriders, you think of Miami Vice, Magnum PI. We all love these shows growing up. A-Team, I certainly loved The Van. I remember going to one of the newer car shows my dad took me as a little kid at the convention center in Tampa, and got to see the, quote, A-Team van. And, man, I thought I was so cool seeing that. And people reminded me, of course, Class Act, the 82 S10. How iconic. Right. A lot of people probably saw that and said, hey, I want to have a truck that does all this crazy stuff. But just a few more. If you think about, too, and I come across this one and I kind of forgot. We all know the famous war song, All My Friends Drive a Lowrider. But, like, even that music video was, like, pre-music videos, but there's a music video out there for it. People can check that out.
Right. It's got a lot of the vintage 70s era lowriders in it.
Yep, it does. Now, speaking of that, there's also, about 20 years ago, Cypress Hill put out one of my favorite albums of theirs, and they have a song called Lowrider. It's a great track. There's a video to it. That was actually a track that, for some reason, I didn't even realize there was a video to it. I think that was the era that I wasn't really watching MTV as much, and I just had never seen it till a few years ago. But you fast forward to the late 90s when Dre was going to put out Chronic 2000, that ends up being changed due to Suge kind of trolling him, gets changed to Chronic 2001, and then, when Dre and Snoop put out Still DRE, you think of the lowriders in it, and I'm hoping Snoop has hinted that there's going to be a follow-up to Doggy Style, which dropped 30 years ago this November, Ruben, and they're going to call it Missionary, apparently, right? So it's kind of that little play on, but my fingers are crossed that this really happens the way he said the album's finished. I hope that Snoop and Dre drop another one. And I think there's going to be maybe a tie-in with Joey on possibly how that ties into maybe a future music video. We'll have to see.
We will have to wait and see.
The last few I had on my list was Real Mother Effin' G's by Eazy-E. There's plenty of lowriders in that. The same actor that played Eazy-E in the spoof, Dre Day video actually plays in that Real Mother Effin' G's. So it was ironic. Eazy thought it was funny, and he actually hired him for that music video. But I mentioned Let Me Ride, and if you really want to go down nostalgia lane, Tim Davis and I do this sometimes, go on YouTube and look at some of the old St. Ides commercials. There's a really good one with Warren G, with the G-Funk era, with lowriders, Impalas, hydraulics. Dude, it's all amazing.
Yeah, those commercials were like little videos in themselves.
Yeah, they were.
Very good production. Whoever was doing them for him.
Dude, as a kid, I just said, "Hey, I don't know what this is, but I want to drink those." My parents were like, go back to bed." It's like,
Get me too, Mom.
yeah. I'm gonna post some more stuff in the future. Soul Train Awards '94 is the famous Dre and Snoop come out with the Impala. There's a few others. There's one next month, the 30th anniversary. I'm gonna post something that you guys I think will appreciate that ties into Lowriders. But I just think back to the good old days. I truly do, and I think a lot of people are on TikTok now and Instagram and stuff, YouTube. But when you think back to some of the movies that we talked about, with Cheech and Chong type stuff, and just a little bit, things were a little bit, times were easier. Let's just say it like that, right? And you could get away with some things, like you said, that you may not be able to today. And that's what I appreciate about the 70s into the 80s, even arguably into the 90s to a certain extent.
Right, and and I think we're going to continue seeing that. I mean, well, we are, with a lot of the reality TV show and stuff, and a lot of the YouTube stuff, of course. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the future.
Oh yeah. Now, when I made that cross post, I wanted to mention I did post it also in the Airhead Nation group, and I want to thank everybody. We had 68 comments in there, so we had a lot in the. I was in a mini truck club in the 80s and 90s, so I want to go through here and just call out anybody that I may have mentioned or missed, rather. A lot of these we did hit on, so I'll just look through here real quick. A lot of people mentioned Big Worm, so that was cool with the 61. Someone mentioned the 72 Monte Carlo from Boulevard Nights. That was Robbie, of course. Let's see what else we have. King T, that was on the front of his album cover. Corvette Summer, Ronnie Cup chimed in with the Buick Riviera, which was cool. Smokey and the Bandit, of course, Tony Boss Bolin, he's a big Smokey and the Bandit fan. Someone said Johnny Wall. Johnny says the X-Cab OBS dually at the beginning of Biker Boys had hydros on the front end. That was kind of cool.
Right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Now, what about this one? Was Jason Redden, dude? So to tell me this one wasn't awesome. The lowrider car from the movie Cars. We can't not include that.
Right. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so that was animation, but it was awesome because it was dragging. I love that thing.
Right.
Someone mentioned, Jason Bruner mentioned Lowriders, the film. I don't know if this was critically acclaimed, so to speak, but I know this came out in the last 10 years. But of course, there's an Impala hopping on the front of it.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw that. I remember it being on in the theater, but I don't think I'd ever seen it.
Lowriders with Theo Rossi. That's another one. What about? Okay, so I'm drawing a blank on this. This guy goes, it's a sledgehammer. This was Randy Colwell says it's a sledgehammer, and it's the tater tot, the guy that likes the tater tots.
Yeah, it's Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes, thank you. See, luckily that wasn't the trivia question this week.
Yeah, that could have been a great trivia question.
Now, I forgot to mention, this is on my list. Okay, we would have really got razzed for this one. Training Day. Tony has told me if you look close, there's some scenes you can see air, there's some scenes you can see hydros because they used a couple cars. But we all know that's a lowrider car. Hydros, that's an awesome one. Right.
And, right now when we talked about the lowrider in Napoleon Dynamite, it just jarred my memory. The Selena movie.
Oh, that's
right. There's a lowrider. Yeah, there's anything for Selena. That car.
Yeah, rest in peace, Selena. Cliff Summers, he had posted one funny one in here. A couple others. Yeah, the movie 187, Andy Sergenis mentioned the 84 to 88 Toyota. Someone says, was just out at the 30th anniversary of the filming of this movie. And, okay, that was Nick. They mentioned Gypsy Rose, which, let's not forget, Gypsy Rose, I wish I would have went to D.C. when it was displayed at the state capitol. That was pretty cool.
Right, that is way cool.
Now, don't kill us, because I know that's going to kind of round it out. I mean, I know some of you guys are probably slamming the dashboard right now going, damn, they didn't talk about, such and such. I could go on. I know you could, Ruben. We could go on for hours and hours and hours, but I would encourage people to go check out some of the other stuff on the internet as well as YouTube, because there's a lot out there. Maybe I'll do a video in the future, and I'll kind of do that for our YouTube channel. But certainly, Ruben, it is cool taking a little trip down memory lane. You and I both know we love this road called Memory Lane.
Oh, we sure do. And you know what? When you asked me to do this, I started while I was working, I started going through stuff in my head, thinking of stuff, and there's stuff I'm forgetting.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, I mean, it brought back a lot of good memories for me as a kid. And the movies that I saw as a kid that kind of, pushed me into this whole car thing. And I just want to thank my parents for letting me watch some of that crap.
Dude.
Because and then it's funny, it popped in my head. There's no lowriders in it, but there's a lot of cars. A movie called Used Cars.
Oh,
back
right.
Yeah. What was it, 79 or 78?
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
The Bobs created that. Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale. It was kind of it's a cult classic. It was a box office bomb, but of course they go on to create Back to the Future. But that was their first film, I think technically it was.
Yes. And I mean, if you like cars, I mean, it's goofball comedy, I guess.
It is 70s.
But it's a good movie to watch and spend some time.
There's a couple Lincolns in it too. That's how I know that movie.
Right. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but that's the cool thing about films and even music. My dad used to say it kind of draws a line in the sand for the time period. And again, I love researching this stuff, and certainly, we kind of did a hodgepodge deal, just kind of having fun going through it, and that's what this podcast is about. Don't hold us to it. We weren't exactly trying to hit on every single movie, but certainly without the Airhead Nation and the Facebook group, I was in a mini truck club in the 80s and 90s. Without their help, it would have been a lot tougher to put this together, so I got to thank them. But Ruben, anything else? Any other updates you got that you want to share before we wrap it and call Joey?
Oh man, just working a lot, and this weather's been crazy. Again, we had a hurricane come through here this past weekend, and my heart goes out to those people that were affected. We were not. I mean, I want to say it probably started raining here maybe about 4 a.m. or so, and I'm talking like a steady drizzle, and probably about noon or so, it started coming down a little heavier and a little more steadier. No wind, no crazy winds or anything, or at least not here where I'm at. But we did get a lot of water. There was stuff that was flooded, but to the east of us, I know for a fact people out like in the Palm Springs area, they were affected. There was stuff that was flooded, and they got a lot more water than we did. But for the most part, like where I'm at, we didn't get anything. I mean, yeah, they hyped it up and they closed schools down yesterday, and but we survived it.
I love the fact that you guys were safe. I know some of it is it's tough, right? Because we just had the Hawaii thing, and I haven't been really honed in on that. I know there was a lot of craziness, and there's people that are missing. I think there were several 40 some odd people that maybe perished, and then there's over 100 missing. But then you kind of had this in California. So, again, I tell people all the time, you have to get out there and do the stuff you love, because you never know. And I'll just say this, it kind of ties in. Last Saturday, we went to Portillo's, local cruise in. Angie Ellis and team kind of have it. And just to wrap this up, one of my buddies, Jason Fitzpatrick, came up there with his girl, Megan, and they had came from a funeral, and I just said, hey, I could tell that, she had been, very upset and stuff, and they still came through for a little while and hung out. And she said, I forget if it was her nephew or someone in her family. It was a Sunday within the last month, Ruben. He was driving on a big road over here, US 19, and it was like 10:40 in the morning, and he was loaded up, and he was going to like the flea market because he was in the collectible stuff. And he's just driving down the road, and some kid, I think the kid was 19, if I remember correctly. I think, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe he was 29, I may have heard that wrong, but bottom line is this person literally swerves over into the other oncoming traffic and hits him, and the guy dies.
Wow.
And he's just gone. And and it made me think, like, when these tragedies happen, she said he was the nicest guy. He was into his collectibles. He just loaded up, and he was, just imagine you're just going to the store, you're going wherever, and it's like literally things can change that quick. And I know a lot of us kind of go, well, you're sad for the person, but you kind of go, well, okay, all right, I got to move on, right? But at the end of the day, like if you really stop and think about it, literally something like freak like that can happen to any of us. You know, it really could. So I'm constantly, I have my head on a swivel and say, you know, I want to get out there. I want to do the things I want to do. I'm going to be as safe as I can, right? You know, and cautionary, right, with certain things. But at the end of the day, man, like you just never know, Ruben.
Right. You never. First of all, my condolences to him and his family, and sorry to hear that.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you just never know. And I mean, I've done a lot of traveling in my day, and I've seen a lot of stuff happen on the side of the road, and I've seen stuff happen in front of me. And you know, I thank God that I wasn't involved in anything, and all my travel's been safe. But you know, you really just never know. You know, whether you leave 5 minutes later or 5 minutes earlier. I mean, who's to say? You don't know.
Yep.
You know, and you brought up Maui, Lahaina. I've been, and it's probably my favorite spot on earth. Beautiful,
Wow.
beautiful island, and my heart goes out to those people. I mean,
Yep.
I've seen it firsthand. I know what that place looks like, and I've seen the pictures of what's gone.
Yep.
And it's just, it's
Devastating.
mind blowing. It's just all this devastation. But you know, I'm not religious. I'm spiritual, and through all that one little Catholic church in the middle of Lahaina
I
is still
know.
standing.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
wow. It's like how.
Yeah, and I've
you know?
actually, I've actually been inside that church, and you know, it's been there for years, and I've man, I feel for those people.
Yeah. Well, get out there, live your life, be safe, do the things you want to do, as long as you're not hurting anybody else, right? Is what I always say. You know, do the things you want to do, right? But
Right.
with that being said, Ruben, again, I would encourage people to check out C1500 Nonsense. I told everyone earlier, CNS Metalworks. Well, maybe I'll tell them in the future here on the episode, depending on how long it takes. But cs-metalworks.com. You can hit them up if you guys need parts, right, Ruben? They can call Chris, or if they want to have Chris and team bag their vehicle.
Whatever you need, parts, information, you know, questions about anything, give us a call.
Always appreciate you, Ruben. R.A. Ruben Arteaga. Stay on the rise, brother, and we'll talk more lowriders here, I'm sure, in the future, brother.
Thanks for everything, man, and we out.
We got you. Let's keep on keeping on. All right, thanks, Ruben. Man, that was a lot of fun talking about. I mean, we could really do a whole episode, and that's kind of what I had planned, but because we had so much to talk about with the Spark Show, we just couldn't not talk about all that other stuff with Mike. So as I wind it down, I just want to remind people, if you go to ourlifestylepodcast.com, there is on the left side, you can click on the official OLP show calendar, and then you can click here where it says click here to subscribe. And when you do that, you will be taken to an option to subscribe to our digital calendar. It's totally free, and it's basically iCloud. And on iCloud, what I do is I spend the time and I go through and I add all of these shows. So once again, I'm not going to go through all of these right now, simply because it's going to be a long episode and there's already a lot that we're covering. Now, if I look at the scope here for the next couple of weeks, this weekend you have Revolution, Kentucky. We talked to Steve about that. You also have, if you're in the Pacific Northwest, please get out to Sittin' Pretty, SummerSlam, SITTIN, Pretty, PRETTI. You can certainly find information on Facebook and on Instagram for more information on that event. Of course, it's in the Pacific Northwest, and Craig and those guys have done a lot to bring this show back, so I'm super excited for them. Hoping to see some good photos from there. Robbie with Static Nationals, you got that the 8th and 9th of September. That's at Rogersville City Park, so I hope that you guys can make it out there. That weekend is also going to be pretty busy because you're going to have Dropped and Destroyed 20th annual event in Uniontown, Ohio, and then River Slam is also in Chattanooga that same Saturday, 9/9/2023. Sparks in the Park is that next weekend, the 15th, 16th, 17th, and that is in Niceville, Florida. And then 2 weeks after Sparks in the Park, you have September 30th is Fair Enough. That's FAIR enough, ENUF, at the Green County Fairgrounds. Justin Wyatt behind that one and friends. You can find Fair Enough, more information out on Facebook. We will also try to get Justin on to talk a little bit about that, maybe as early as the next episode. So stay tuned for more information there. That's all I want to cover in terms of the scope. The show updates is brought to you by our kinfolk at Spreading the Love. And speaking of spreading the love, we want to show those guys some love. Sean Rose, David Magatti, good people. And if you look on Instagram, Spreadin' with an I-N, the L-U-V, Spreadin' the Love, L-U-V. You can find more information there. This is an automotive-based 501c3 nonprofit org dedicated to helping individuals and families fighting breast cancer. So they're good people. And again, shout out to Sean Rose. I did not mention this earlier. We got the slap hands, of course, as always, up at the Spark Show. Love his booth setup. Obviously, they had to rebound a little bit from some of the weather things that many of us experienced at Mini Nats. So, huge shout out to those guys. Again, the show updates brought to you by Spreadin' the Love. Sean Rose, David Magatti, keep doing what you guys are doing. Next, we got the podcast updates, and we only have one new review to share this episode. As I'm pulling that up, I will encourage you to stay tuned to our social media. We will be dropping something possibly the day this episode comes out, if all goes well. So stay tuned. I think you guys will really appreciate what we're going to be dropping. This comes from Drew Boo 2016, DREW Boo, BOO. Love listening to you guys and the content and the information that you're providing. He is at West 59 Customs with an S, West 59 Customs. So thank you so much. If you're on an iPhone or any Apple device, please go into the pre-installed podcast app, search OLP or tap on library, select OLP, scroll down, tap the 5 stars, and if you want to go a step further, write a review. If you want to put your Instagram or business name, we will shout you out just like this in the future. Help us improve our reviews. We want to get past 300, basically, and the majority of those are 5 stars, so we really, really appreciate the support. The podcast update is brought to you by our kinfolk over at Graphics Mafia, GRAPHIX, Mafia.com. They're on social media, on Facebook, and of course, if you need some light design work, maybe you need to replenish some stickers for your business, or let's say you have an old decal or sticker that you want to reproduce, hit up Buddy at Graphics Mafia. He will certainly take care of you. Last, we got the Airhead Nation updates, and I have, I think, 2 that I wanted to cover. One was, we talked about Brooke earlier, so I wanted to give a huge shout out to her. It really means a lot. It was really awesome to see the recognition that she received. She is good people, and certainly want to throw her a huge shout out. Also, I want to throw a shout out for the Airhead Nation updates to Local Rides, RIDEZ, Local Rides with a Z, magazine.com. They have the Yoda family issue on sale. These are good people. I got a chance to slap hands and talk with the owner of the magazine recently at the Spark Show. Good dude. So check out Local Rides, that's with a Z, magazine. Again, they are good people. Lastly, I want to say Joey Whitby, a friend of ours at the podcast, happy Born Day. I didn't get a chance to say it on that day, but I plan to say it, of course, on the podcast. Big supporter. We got a chance to see him at the Spark Show because he gallivanted out east. His son recently moved to Tennessee. He went to visit his son, and oh, by the way, 2 birds with 1 stone. He also gallivanted down to the Spark Show, so it was great slapping hands. We didn't get a lot of chance to hang out that weekend because he was doing the son thing, but Joey would definitely appreciate your support. The Airhead Nation updates brought to you by CNS Metalworks. It's cs-metalworks.com if you want to link up with those guys. cs-metalworks.com. They're also on Instagram. Look up Chris and team if you need AccuAir, airlift, solenoids. Maybe you want to bag your vehicle. Get at the fine folks over in Corona, California. CNS Metalworks with an S. Good people. Now, as always, I could be forgetting something. If I do, I apologize. Of course, this is kind of a long episode. We are now going to roll in to the audio with Joey. If you're new to the podcast, consider subscribing. Just hit subscribe. It's free, or follow however you're listening to this podcast. We really appreciate it. And let us know what you think by leaving a 5-star review. Stay on the rise, everyone. We out ya. Yo, as I mentioned, super excited to have Joey from the Majestics back on. We got a great story to tell, but Joey, first I got to ask you, man, how you been? How's life treating you?
Man, life's good, man. Life's doing good. My family's good. Good. You know, we got a lot of good things going on for the future here now, especially a lot of different changes in the past week.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to give a shout out to my homie Vic. He kind of put me on game over this past weekend or so, that he said, hey, did you get the news? And I hadn't heard. And he goes, well, yo, let me drop it on you. He goes, usually you're dropping the intel on me. And he goes, Joey from Majestics, this deal went down where he sold his car. And at first I thought he was like, ribbing me, like, don't tell me a joke. And I was like, dude, that's awesome. But, we had you on in the past, so we talked about a lot of the lineage back to the late 80s into the 90s with Dr. Dre and even Chris Cross, like in the Jump video, and a lot of things I talked about earlier in this episode. But talk to us a little bit about, like, okay, so we laid the foundation of this badass lowrider that you had. Talk to us about how this deal goes down. Does someone reach out to you, and how does that work?
So yeah, when I built Game Changer 64, man, I told myself, I says, I'm never going to put a for sale sign in the window. I'm never going to advertise it for sale. But if somebody approached me, of course, for the right money, I'm going to consider it. And actually, it's crazy is I got contacted by another guy from another car club like 2 months ago, and we had and he was supposed to buy it, but things had gotten away in his life, and then I'm still holding on for him just because I'm a man of my word,
Sure.
And I went to the Atlanta show a few weeks ago. I was like, I know I have this feeling like the car's about to sell. Like, let me do one last hoorah show. So I did that. I went to the Lowrider magazine Atlanta show, loaded it up, went up there, killed it, like I always do with the car, Best of Show traditional mural from Travis Wilson at Vast Designs, in first place in street class. So on my way home, of course, social media is the big advertisement now, as we all know, for anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at my Instagram, and I'm scrolling through it, and I see a post from this guy out in Vegas, Cracker 57. It's his Instagram name, and it said, looking for a 64 Impala rag convertible, gold in color with tan interior. I'm like, what?
You're like, oh, wait a minute.
I'm like, what are the odds of this? I'm like, but then, like I said, I had this other deal going, so I was like, I'm not going to entertain it. Let me not entertain it or whatever. So I drove up there and back by myself, and I'm like, had this on my mind, and coincidentally, like 2 days later, Cracker hits me up on Instagram, like, hey, I got somebody that's looking for your type of car, and what are you wanting for it? So I had told him, look, there's an offer on the table. If you guys want to, come up off that offer and make me something, to drop the first deal, let's talk. And mind you, the first guy had never paid a deposit or anything, so I don't want nobody thinking like,
Sure.
I dropped it, like backed out on a guy that gave me a deposit.
Right. Yeah, you wouldn't do that. I got you. So yeah, that makes sense if he comes up on it.
I sent a bunch of photos. The guy that is actually interested in the car contacts me. We have conversation back and forth regarding the price. He didn't like my first price. So he called and he goes like, all right. He goes, well, if the guy backs out, let me know. I said, okay. And then 15, 20 minutes later, he calls me back, makes me offer I can't refuse. And he tells me, all right, well, I'm going to be there Thursday. I said, okay. And Thursday came around. The timing, based on what he told me, was off. So and then that evening, he was supposed to be here Thursday morning. I never heard from him except that morning said he's flying out. He got here. He was wanting to make the deal that night. And I'm thinking, well, how do you get that kind of money on the plane?
Right,
You
right,
know?
because you can't travel. Like, there's some rule you can only have so much money on you.
Right. So I was like, well, at this point, I threw red flags. So I asked my partner over Tim Tim. He owns a shop over in Orange City called Tim the Tent Man. He sells car stereo equipment and does tinting. He's like, yeah, come over here and do the deal. That way you're not at your house, blah, blah, blah. So we did that. I had people on standby, just kind of watching my back. I don't know who I'm dealing with. And then I drove the Impala there. I was like, all right, from my house there, it was probably 25-minute drive. Drove the Impala over there.
Nice.
For one last drive. And I'm on standby. I'm got my guard up.
Right.
And then I go to pull into my Tim's shop, and who's standing there?
No
Exhibit.
way. Yeah, I saw the photo. And I was wondering if you were going to say Exhibit, man.
So Exhibit, of course, they got to protect theirself and not expose the celebrity status, which is respect. I understand. I respect that. So I get out and we just chopping it up, and then the guy that's friends with him, his name's Abraham, that I had been talking to, was there, of course, and they looked over the car and seemed to be happy with it, and I still didn't put. And at this point, I was just figuring the car's for Exhibit, So and then come back, I was like, "Oh, he's for you," and yeah. They're still not exposing that it was for Dre.
Sick, dude. So when did he break that news to you?
So the way still didn't put two and two together. So at this point, he's like, look in the car, and then Exhibit goes, "Hey, can you play the music for me?" I'm like, "Sure." What you want to listen to? And he goes, "Put on some Dr. Dre." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Play some Dre for him." He's in the back of the car with his phone videoing or something. I'm assuming at this point, and I still don't know at this point, that he's probably videoing it for Dre. Sending Dre videos or FaceTiming him or whatever.
Yeah.
And at that point, him and Abraham looked at each other and said, "All right, let's make the deal." And mind you, we go in the office, he brings out a brick of money. And still, I didn't even pay attention. It said from the bank. It's a package that says Andre Smith, which is Dr. Dre's real name.
Dude, man, that's like kind of mind blowing. And like you said towards the beginning, people underestimate the. You talk about Game Changer, the name of the car, but you underestimate what social media can do, because someone saw that you were up at the ATL, Atlanta Lowrider show. Obviously, they know the car from Instagram and this type of thing, but isn't it crazy how all that can be just kind of travel that quick?
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, the guy that initially posted up that, post about needing a Gold 64, a guy here in Orlando had tagged my name on there, like, "Hey, check out Joey." And it may came from that. It may came from the Atlanta show post. Sure. I don't know. I never asked. And then, so I never found it. So they bought the car, it went on the tow truck. They took it back to the Ritz-Carlton in Orlando Thursday night. So I'm looking on video, and then I see a post that says, with Exhibit and Smiley from Good Times, taking the car off the tow truck, and then there's a caption that says, "Exhibit taking back Dr. Dre's new ride." I'm like, what?
That's kind of how. So he kind of kept it on the DL. And then that's how you put two and two together,
right? So I'm assuming, and of course, like, and you know what it is if somebody says or hears, "Oh, Dr. Dre wants to buy your car," they're going to try. Their concern is that then people want to try to double or triple their asking price.
Yeah. Jay Leno, I think, probably runs into that. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, like, I ended up talking to Smiley, and he's like, "Yeah, it's for Dre." And then I end up talking the next day to the guy on Messenger, Cracker 57. Like, he's like, "Bro," I was like, "Hey, thanks for setting the deal up, man. I'm honored that Dre want my car. I mean, why couldn't you be honored? You know what I mean?"
Right.
So, I mean, at this point, like it was nerve-wracking to even make that decision after having the car for so long, but. But to know that Dre is getting my car, man, man, I'm speechless. It's changed my life. You know what I mean? I don't know what the future holds. It may fizzle out, or who knows? Maybe I got
man, you
people
got too
watching
much
for the
love in your
next ride.
heart. Yeah.
Maybe maybe you never know. Maybe people see me building my next ride, and who knows? We'll see what the future holds. But that it was a dream come true, man. I never seen that coming, and kind of getting into the whole story with Game Changer is, when I remember being a kid, man. Basically, and I remember watching Dre and Snoop driving that '64 rag onto the stage on the music awards, man. I was like,
Yep.
and I remember sitting there kicking it with the homies, drinking a 40, like, I'm going to have one of them one day.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Soul Train Awards back in the day.
Yeah.
There were a couple of them. I remember I watched, same as you, probably the live broadcast, and they come out and you're like, what? And it just was like, it's etched in our minds. And a lot of people, they may not recall this, but, even and I talked a lot about in the beginning of this episode, different movies and TV shows, but mostly music videos too, like Crisscross, right? I mean, they were young, and I know people, they were corny, whatever. But if you think back to like the Jump video and some of their other videos, they were heavily influenced by Snoop and Dre. They had, Jermaine Dupri used a lot of their samples and stuff. So again, even me as a young kid seeing that, it just was like, dude, it was something that we gravitated towards.
Yeah, I mean, my days were like, the Chronic, Dr. Dre, the Chronic. I mean that to this day, that album's just like bar none. Nobody's touching that. You know what I'm saying? But I just remember watching the Dre and NWA and always watching the 6'4" rag up in the videos, and then years later I got one. Years later I finished it, and here we are full circle. The guy that inspired me to build that car bought my car.
Dude, it's mind-blowing, and as much as I love the Chronic, it kind of gives me chills is like last September when I went out to California, hang out with my friends, the Raddies, with some of the Lincoln stuff, but I did the pop culture couple days, and I had talked to Daniel Jordan, who shot the photos of Dre for the Chronic, so, obviously the Chronic paying homage to Zigzags, but then there's the one main, what I call the lowrider photo, that was like the insert and then the inside of the CD. So Daniel put me on game on, hey, this is the spot. This is the address of where I shot it. And then I spent hours on Google Maps figuring it out. And I figured out the exact shot. And then Daniel called me later that afternoon. And he goes, hey, I know you tried to get in contact with me, whatever. And I talked to him a few minutes. And I said, well, I'm going to send you a couple photos. And he goes, I sent them to him. And he goes, you found exactly the right spot. He goes, I don't know how you did it. And that made me feel good, but it's crazy that you and I became friends, and here you are selling, a car, Game Changer, to Dre, and, I'm arguably one of the biggest Dre fans, the Chronic fans. I mean, I just think that's mind-blowing, dude.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no doubt.
Now,
it's crazy.
Yeah, and you got to think, too, all the love that you get, like, I mean this sincerely, it was crazy, the episode that you were on, Joey, it's one of our most downloaded episodes in OLP history, and that's crazy to me because, we're mini truck inspired, but we've always talked about, we love all the culture stuff, but I bring that full circle because I'm sure, the love that you got from, the guys and the ladies in the Majestics, right, your family, your club, they had to have just been super stoked for you.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's been honestly across the board. I can't tell you since Thursday how many hundreds of calls or messages and texts I've got just like congratulating me and, just checking and seeing how I was feeling. And honestly, this past week, my adrenaline been going so much about the whole transaction. I finally crashed on yesterday.
Yeah.
But it's still like even after the transaction, I had my vice president with me for the Daytona chapter, Jeremy, man. And when we left Tim's shop, we were like in silence, like, what just happened?
You're like, were we just on? Exactly, like we were on like a hidden TV show, or are they punking us? You know what I mean? That type of deal.
Yeah. And then a couple hours later, then I find out the car's for Dre. So like, there wasn't no sleep that night.
Yeah, you got to hit up Mr. X to the Z and be like, "Yo, man, could you sign my Chronic album or something?" That's where my mind's at. But going full circle too is something that I think was pretty cool. Is that obviously Exhibit? He's real close to Dre, but I follow a lot of the Dre stuff on YouTube and a little bit on Instagram in terms of, not a lot comes out. Dre's a very kind of kept to himself person, at least from what I can tell. But this was kind of cool. Like, I swear it was like maybe a year or two ago, and somebody was at his house. It might have been Exhibit. It might have been Anderson Paak, one of his newer kind of guys that he does a lot with. It wasn't Kendrick, but it was someone. One of his homies was at his house, and they were there, and there was an Impala there. And what struck me, and I'm going to share this after this episode drops, is there was a car that had come up on eBay, and I'll have to send you the link, and you can tell me if you know anything about it. But there was a car that had come up on eBay, and they were asking like 150 grand, and this was just a really nice car. I mean, I think yours was even nicer. But supposedly Dre had signed it under the rear seat. So one of his homies was at his house, and I guess, if that was really Dre's car, that car had been long gone, right? So he's checking out an Impala, and I swear to you, I wish I could find the video. Dre's like, sitting in the seat, checking out. He goes, man, I got to get me another one of these, And I kind of saw the glow in his eyes because, again, as you said, NWA into Death Row, dovetailing into Aftermath Entertainment. He was there at the infancy of all that, and now to know that I can slap hands with a homie that says, "Yo, I sold the car and it went to Dre," it's just mind blowing, Joey.
It is, and it's just, I tell you, I'm still stoked about it, man. Like, the following, like even the following on social media, bro. Ever since this has happened, I was going to keep it quiet for a few weeks. I didn't really want the club to think, the club to know I got rid of my car so quickly. And I was going to go out to LA to the banquet and just do my thing, but it leaked and it just blew up after that. So ever since Thursday, man, like the videos of the car on the tow truck, and the videos of Exhibit and man, I can't tell you the love I've gotten from friends, family, even people in the whole car scene. It's been crazy,
the
man.
Car community, yeah. We got to tie this in, of course. It just seems like yesterday, Super Bowl goes down in Los Angeles. Dre and team, they go on to perform. They win. I think it was an Emmy. It was they win awards for this performance. I mean, it was really over the top. Of course, the lowriders are tied into it, and it seemed to. I know things are with inflation. It's a little crazy these days, but when those after that show, there was so many people that were just like. I mean, you had guys from like I'm a white dude from Land O'Lakes, right? But I mean, you had guys that like weren't even car guys. They're like, yo, man. It really helped to me, in my mind. It helped put like lowriders have been in the forefront for a long time. Movies, TV. We talked about it earlier in this episode, but to me, Joey, it really even thrust lowriders back into the mix where people were just like, "Damn, I want me a '64 Impala." So it's really cool to me that you worked so hard to put this together. Blood, sweat, and tears. The sacrifices that we all make to finish a big project, and for you to get over this hump and have the smile on your face and go, yo, I did that, man, dude, total salute, brother.
Thank you, man. And then, not a lot of people can say it, but like, I mean, I had that car for over 20 years. I didn't have it built in 20 years, but I bought that car. If you, and a lot of guys there locally know, I bought that car over 20 years ago in Pinellas Park from the guys who used to own Boulevard Customs.
I always wondered that because I didn't know those guys, but I remember that shop, back in the early 2000s. I remember going there one time, and, they always had very, very high-end stuff. So I'm guessing I may have even seen it back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, it was in pieces when I bought it. Literally, the body was just sitting on the frame.
Yep.
And, what happened was, Lowrider was popping, and then the big rim stuff started, and then I think they kind of went that angle when the car just set, and then that's back when I said, I'm going to get, and then I did a Lowrider show with my club members from Majestics, and one of our members had just finished his 64 rag, and I was like, damn, man, I got to get one of them. Like, my childhood was coming back to me, even though I was young then, but my childhood was coming back to me, like, damn, I said I was going to get one with my friend Jimbo from Fly Customs.
Yeah, I saw Jimbo this past weekend, yep.
Yeah, Jimbo found the car for me. He's
wow.
like, I know where one's at. And that's what happened. And, yeah, so we we went and bought it. I had to go up in the roof of that Boulevard Customs and get all these boxes. It was like big rim boxes full of parts for that car. And, it took me a long time to do it because I was young. So I wanted to always have a car on the street. So I do a little bit, put it to the back burner, build another car, sell that one, whatever, and so forth and so on. Then when I turned 40, I was like, man, I need to get this car done.
Yeah, I remember you said that. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's like, the sacrifices that we make to be able to go, hey, I want to make it happen. So something I wanted to bring up, a lot of people tend to think, and like even me as a mini trucker, a lot of us, we build these high-end trucks and we kind of go, it's a show truck, I don't drive it. The way I see a lot of lowrider guys and ladies is they roll their stuff. I mean, even cars that are 300, 400, 500 grand and plus, and your high-end build, whatever that number was, that to me reinforces like the word cruising in the lowrider community is unparalleled. And your car, like you said, that last 25-minute drive or 25-mile drive, man, this car wasn't afraid to roll.
Nah, man, that thing was, I tell you what, it was like my nicest car that I ever built, but it was the most smoothest one I ever built. Like, man, you could get that thing, turn the key on and cruise, and I had my vision. Like when I built something, I got a vision what it's going to look like, how it's going to go, and the game changer was all that.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And do you think like the accumulators, I always say that word wrong. I think accumulators are those things that you have on a lot of guys run those. Does that help? That dampers it, right? Helps?
It does, but I didn't have them on Game Changer.
Okay. Yep, that's what. Okay.
It was just the way. The
setup,
the softer spring. Yeah, the setup, the softer springs. Some guys putting them 4 or 5 ton springs in them, man, because they want to hop. But I wasn't about like hopping that car. I just want to ride.
Yep. Now I got to ask you this as we start to wind it down here about this awesome story. When you roll that last 25-minute cruise, or did you put on a couple songs that meant a lot to you? Did you just kind of put on Pandora and let it ride to some Dre? Like, what was your mindset then?
I should have played some music, but I was just in my head. So,
that's not bad.
So I was just kind of like taking it all in for the last time. Like, the ride, the way it sounded, the way it looked. I even like Wednesday, knowing they were flying in Thursday, not even knowing who was coming in on Thursday. Wednesday night, I even sit out in the garage. Now, I did sit out in the garage Wednesday night and played quite a few songs and just had a few beers and had some time to myself. So I had that time Wednesday, and then just the drive up Thursday night, man, just kind of was just taking it all in for the last time.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, my buddy Ruben and I and Mike, we talked a little bit about in this episode, some of our favorite, maybe most iconic. I mean, you mentioned the Dre, which I think is always number one for me for music videos, whether it's Let Me Ride or G-Thang. Do you ever think of like one particular movie? I know Gypsy Rose was in a movie here and there as well. Was there any one car, maybe besides the Dre videos, that stuck in your head that you could think of from a movie or TV show that always was with you there?
Absolutely. The 63 from Boys in the Hood. I mean, look at my car. I mean, look at my car. Mine was like, not that I was building my car exactly like that, because it wasn't like that. The color, it just struck in my head. Cube riding in that tray and throughout the movie. I mean, that car is beautiful, man. And I think that car's in Japan now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's what I had heard. And when I watched the audio commentary of Boys in the Hood, rest in peace, John Singleton, he kind of kicked himself when he said, hey, I wish I would have bought that car, because he's like, man, that car went up a lot. Because, back then he probably had an opportunity. What if they would have said, man, yeah, we'll sell you the car 30 grand or whatever, And sure, it was a lot of money back then. But I mean, dude, you can't even mess with that. Now, I'm looking at photos, and I mentioned these when we had you on before, Joey, from January 2nd of 2021. You were out at Roosters, and I look at just how clean the trunk is, the lights. We talked a lot about this stuff, and I'll reshare some of these photos. But when someone, you don't have to give us all the intel, but like when someone like Exhibit or Abraham or Abram, when someone like that reaches out, right, and some of these guys like Cracker 57, and you start sending photos, right, were they looking for photo, like also build photos, like bare metal stuff? Obviously, these guys know the tricks of the trade and they know what to look for, right? But what do you think really sold them on going, okay, this wasn't, this isn't just, some quick spray car. I mean, they knew from the photos right away, it sounds like, that, bam, this is the one that someone's going to want.
I found out later, like, I guess that Dre was looking at a couple other ones. And I know one of them was a super sport, and he didn't like super sport interior, which I don't either. So, I think it was just, I'm all about traditional, and like, I don't know what caught his eye, but maybe he just knew. Honestly, I don't know what caught their eye, but I think that they could tell that I put my heart and soul in that car. You know what I mean? Because like even when Abram and Exhibit were looking at it, I mean, there was a few things they touched on, and I had already told them on the phone, like, look, I just really finished this car. It's not been out but 3 or 4 times.
Yep. I know. I'm glad I got to see it in person, by the way.
Right. And I told them, and they were like, and then they looked at each other like, yeah, I mean, there's a few things wrong with it, but nothing major. Like all the core of it is good. There was just minor stuff that needed a weekend's worth of work or a few days worth of work to finish up, and they were cool with that. They loved it. I mean, they seemed to love it. I mean, they crawled up underneath the car and everything.
And Zibik, obviously on the Dre, when he's like, look at the chrome up on that, and as they're bouncing it, right? I mean, so many iconic, and they work together, and Dre produced just some of his albums and songs, of course, and just pretty awesome. When you, like, in the future, as this kind of moves forward, right? There's talks of, Snoop's already said, hey, there's an album, Missionary, coming, which is going to be like a follow-up to Doggy Style. As the Chronic dropped in 9 Deuce, 92, and then, of course, this November, on my born day, 11/23, in 9 Tray, Snoop drops Doggy Style. One of the best hip-hop albums, just like you said, with the Chronic. I'm hoping, right? I'm itching that if we can get some of that magic of Dre and those guys, I know a lot of it's already been recorded, but I would love to see them come back out with another anthem, right? West Coast, Hip Hop's 50 this year. Maybe see the car in the video. I know that would bring just an amazing smile to your face to see maybe some integration into some of their productions out there.
And that's what we all talked about, is like, that's what I hope for. The one thing I can hope that I can, and if anybody hears this out there, like, the one thing I can hope that I can get out of this, and I'm hoping to talk to Abram again, and he's supposed to call me, is if the one thing I could get out of all this is a picture with Dre with the car.
Dude, right there, icing on the cake, man.
That would be the icing on the cake, on top of being able to know that he owns it, knowing that, they were willing to come up on the money to make the deal happen. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I would, just to go back to what you're saying, man, is like, Dre's not only a music producer, but, he does movies and directing and all that, man. What if it hit? What if they did? Everybody's asking, what are they doing with it? To me, I feel something's going to happen, because he asked it for something specific.
Yep.
He needed a gold car with tan interior. He's asking for it for a reason, and I guess we'll have to sit back and wait and see.
Yeah, I'm along for the ride, I'll tell you that. And I think back to 92 and 93 when Death Row really starts getting going. They hit us with the 1-2 punch, 9-4 with Above the Rim, and then Dog Pound. Just that era, man, is great. But as you know, and we've talked about this, lowriding is worldwide. We know that it's heavily ingrained in the West. We tip our cap, I certainly do, to everybody on the West. But I think that, maybe we'll pick up some listeners. I know a lot of your club mates had chimed in before. We got much respect for Majestics. But I think, even people sometimes that probably saw folks that watched the Super Bowl deal and they said, oh, there's a bunch of, these guys, they want to get into it, whatever. To me, any exposure like that is good. And what my hope is whether it's mini trucks or it's lowriders, that, we can all continue to embrace the culture. I'll say this, I apologize. I wasn't able to make it out to something that you had asked me to try to get out to back in around the Super Bowl this year. But
Yeah, it was on Super Bowl weekend, unfortunately.
yeah, my wife was like, "Hey, you got some commitments and stuff." But in all seriousness, like I really appreciate many of the guys like you and others out there have really tried to bridge that gap. And when I go to a show and I slap hands with people, especially like you, I never feel any animosity between like, oh, it's a truck guy, it's a Lincoln guy, it's a lowrider guy. Like we truly are. It's one community.
Absolutely. Like we talked about that on the last episode, man, that my vision, and you know what? I get so much love at the Majestics Daytona show every year from the truck guys, from the import guys, because they know I don't see them any different. And you know what? They don't see me any different either, and then, so just like we spoke about before, my vision is to close that gap. And that's from my end, it works. If everybody else from do the same from both cultures, man, it's just going to keep.
The sky's the limit.
The sky's the limit, man. It don't matter what your interests are, whether it's an Impala or it's a truck or a Lincoln or an import Honda. It don't matter, man. We all, at the end of the day, we're all doing the same thing. We're putting our vision and onto a vehicle and doing what we love, no matter what it is. So,
yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think a lot of kids, like maybe even a little younger than me, that grew up, I was at the perfect age, in the 80s into the 90s, and, some guys, grew up watching crisscross videos, and they were like, oh, lowrider's cool, and I'm sure if there was a survey out there, people would say they got bit by the bug. Hey, the last thing I got for you is, the awesome, amazing M-word Majestics. You did hint earlier, and I wanted to make sure you throw this out there. What's the big anniversary that's coming up for you guys?
Oh, man, I'm glad you brought that up. I was just thinking about it. So, Majestics, Little John is the founder of the Majestics Car Club worldwide. So, 1973, Majestics was born. Here we are, 2023. We're about to have our 50th anniversary banquet, man. I mean, it's an honor to know that I'm in this club. And, what John built this club on was all walks of life. Like, when we're talking about race, like that was a big thing back then, and his vision was it don't matter what color you are. He wanted to bring the culture together, the traditional lowrider culture together. And we did that. 50 years later, we did that. We got all walks of life, from guys from Paris to Japan to Canada, you name it. Of course, it's California based, so we got the blacks, the whites, the Mexicans, Puerto Rican. It don't matter, man. That was John's vision, and it's happening, man. We all get along. We're all family.
Yeah, 1,000. And I want to give, if you guys get a chance, look up Joey Majestics on Instagram. Also Majestics with an S_founder. Now, John, I don't always watch, these longer videos. I think I mentioned this to you before on Instagram. Some guys don't keep your attention, whatever, but I've watched some of his longer videos, and John's really passionate. He often will share his unfiltered opinions about where lowriding has come for his 50 years in terms of, what he's seen, some of the things on the scene with, shows, kind of stepping on each other's toes sometimes. Lowrider guys travel in packs a lot, and he's very unfiltered with giving real deal feedback. But I will say this: 50 years. If anybody sees, also like Majestics Paris, they posted Majestics Worldwide 50th anniversary. Thank you to the Majestics founder, Lil John. We wouldn't be here without you. So again, that whole W word, worldwide. Dub. That's true with the Majestics, and again, I think it really pays homage, just like hip hop does in many ways. Hip hop is they're celebrating the 50th too. That really, at the end of the day, it's all for the greater thing of this culture that we all love, man.
Yeah, I mean it's and then not only is it carry out with all of us as one, as worldwide, man. Like with me and most of my guys, like this is a family affair. Like with me, like, I want to thank my wife, man. Like she's a member actually. Like we're building her a car right now. She's part of it. She participates in it. My kids love it, man. Like, it's a family affair, and I'm sure a lot of the other cultures, like the mini trucking and so forth and so on, they're all the same way as well. So.
Yeah, and in closing, I will say, look, man, I really appreciate you saying that, and I think, to have it a family affair, But I tell you, the world we live in now with the nostalgia so popular, whether it's someone wanting to low ride, seeing the stuff on the Super Bowl, who would have ever thought that? Seeing Dre and Snoop doing their thing, but also hip hop getting all, these guys getting the flowers. Oftentimes, one of my favorite rappers, Crooked I, also known as King Crooked, he says, give people their flowers while they're still here, right? Let's not celebrate people when they pass. I mean, sure, when they pass away, like, hey, let's show them love. But at the same time, if there's someone that's inspired you, I encourage people, get out there and say, yo, bump fist, slap hands and say, yo, you helped me, or, you inspired me. You know what I'm saying? And maybe one day I'll get to meet Dre and kind of tell him that as well. But, dude, I salute you, man. I'm so happy for you. And when you commented back and said, yo, let's tell the quick story on the podcast, I was like, bro, let's punch you right. Right. I got 2 tickets to paradise on the podcast. So,
hey, man, you know what? And it's an honor to be on the podcast, man. Thanks for having me again. Like, I hope this ain't the last one, man. We keep this thing going for years to come, man. So.
Dude, if this is the last one, we got problems, because that means Joey ain't going to be building, and I know those words are not in your blood, my friend.
Oh, man. We are, hey, listen, I don't let the grass grow underneath my feet. I'm already on a mission, bro. Me and my wife we're in and out, and we already looking. We already got something our eye on something, and we're going to finish her Cadillac, and, man, my wife, Angelica, man, she's a trooper and stands by me through all this. Like, being a president of a car club as big as Majestics, man, you got to have your significant other on board. It just don't work. So
real deal. When she finishes the Cadillac, let her know we want to have Angelica on. I would encourage everyone, again, check out the Majestics, the different members, as well as Joey on Instagram. Majestics with an S worldwide hashtag. Tap on that. Almost 10,000 posts. And we salute you guys. Have a good 50th. And Joey will be sharing some photos, and let's hope that Dre drops another anthem, man. We need it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, man. Just want to say shout out to all my Majestics Daytona Beach members too, man. These guys are, they're A1, man. So, they supported me through this whole transaction too. So thanks again, fellas.
What are you doing? Just pulling up to the club or what?
I just got done at the bottle club, bro. Dude, I got some scratchers, man, and I didn't win no fucking I didn't win shit.
Dude, isn't there a way to Hank spray paints? He's got this spray paint he sprays back on them, and it doesn't even look like he scratched them off. And then I wouldn't condone this, but he'll be able to get, a buddy or someone, hey man, I got 50 scratchers, I'll sell them to you for 25.
Well, what I heard he was doing was he was spraying the scratchy stuff back on it, and because what he does is he collects it, sprays it back on the scratch offs. Once he finds out they're not winners, and he just takes them back to the Circle K, and he gets the lady behind the desk,
knows them.
He knows them and just gives them his money back, and she puts them back in the rotation.
Yeah,
and so. Yeah, that's his new gimmick that he's got going right now.
Dude, we have to find out that lady's name.
Well, her name's Virginia. Yeah, it's Virginia Black, and she's down on the Davis Boulevard. Circle K is her location.
See, well, you've got a tick mark in your binder.
Yes. No, I found out the location. I found out their little gimmick they had going, and so. I'm hoping. So basically, what he's doing is all the people that they go there. They have the little section where they have the lotto section there in the Circle K, and they scratch them right there on that little table that they have. Right. And once they're not winners, they throw them in that trash can right there. Well, what he's doing is they leave all their little scratch off, all the little shit on the counter. He brushes it all off, puts it back in, sprays it all back on
That's
on
art,
the scratch.
As far as I'm concerned.
Dude, yeah. I mean, he's got a great thing going, man. And especially these $50 tickets, bro. And he was getting $50 back. He's getting his money back for him. So,
dude, hey, that's called the hustle, American dream, dude. Let's be honest.
Dude, the hustle is real, bro. The hustle is real.
You wanna bang this one out?
Bro, I love when you say, let's bang this out.
That's a deal.
Just as long as you don't say, let's pull out, I'm good.
Dude, could you imagine, you're hanging out with, because you used to run in the circles of like Ron Jeremy and stuff, and I know that's where you got some of the lingo.
Well, I would prefer not we talk about, who was in my circles and who wasn't in my circles,
Right.
especially back in the day, because that was that was before,
Ruskin,
Mrs. Mayor.
Gibtown.
Well, hey, Gibtown, Ruskin,
Eight ball,
spend a
cue
little
ball, gangs, all that.
Spend a little time in Riverview, yeah, but we don't need to talk about that on the podcast.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, she'll never hear it.
No, please. She definitely don't listen. Hey, but at least you got her saying scratchers now.
Yeah, that's a proud friend moment, I'll say.
I don't know if I told you the story, but she was at Publix and she's like, "Oh, can I get change? I got to get my husband some scratchers."
Yeah.
And the lady looked at her like, "Excuse me?" And she goes, "I got to get my husband some scratchers." And she goes, "Oh, what are you referring to?" And she goes, "Lotto tickets. I got to get him some scratchers." And the lady kind of looked at her like,
and she can learn the lady that, when you rip off, when you open your Michelob Light later, you take the little deal, right? You kind of just, just pop that bad boy off, and then you don't need a penny, dude. Because, you don't have any pennies at this point. You just take the little deal off the aluminum can, and then you scratch on it.
Aluminum can.
And then the aluminium can is for your cigarette butts, the Camel Joe's.
Animals, dog, animals. Hey, listen, you're not recording right now, are you?
No.
Beautiful.
Dude, that's how you tell her. That's how you say you're going to the club, right? You kick the saloon, because you got saloon doors in the mansion, right? You kick the saloon doors open. You just basically say I love you. And then, dude, she knows you got my understanding, you've got a shower built in the garage, and then you can shower right there, and then when you get back from the club, you get all the smoke, off you just by, taking a shower there.
Well, it don't quite work like that, but it's something like that.
Yeah.
Well, dude, so I was talking to Dizzy, and Dizzy said that.
Dude, he told me their only wish was to, basically take down Eastbound Chilldown. They said they're coming. They're taking shit personal, dude.
Well, what he told me is he hopes and wishes and prays that they can find somebody to do videos as good as the ones that have been popping up on Eastbound Get Down.
Oh, Smutfest. Wait till you see the video stuff I got coming for it, dude.
For Smutfest?
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
It's going to be good, man.
Oh, I can only imagine.
We're pushing the limits, dude.
I could only imagine. Push the limit.
Pushing the limit.
Push the limit. Oh, wait.
Push it to the limit.
One more time.
Yeah. I like it.